May these teachings bring you freedom from the exhausting weight of trying to control what cannot be controlled. May you discover the peace that comes from working with life rather than against it. May your heart soften as you learn to hold all things lightly. Good evening, dear friend. Before we begin this journey together, feel free to share what time it is, where you are, and from what corner of the world you're listening tonight. As we explore these ancient teachings about releasing control, know that there's nowhere else you need to be, nothing else you need to do. Simply allow yourself to settle here, to receive what wants to come, to release what wants to go. The wisdom we'll discover tonight has been passed down through countless generations of Buddhist teachers who understood something profound about human suffering. They saw that much of our pain comes not from life's difficulties themselves, but from our desperate attempts to control what cannot be controlled. Tonight, we'll explore what happens when we finally stop fighting with reality and learn to dance with it instead. Take a slow, deep breath now. Let your body sink a little deeper into whatever supports you. We have all night for these teachings to unfold. There's no rushing, no striving, just this gentle exploration of what it means to truly let go. In the mountains of old Japan, there lived a master weaver named Sachiko, who was renowned throughout the region for the extraordinary beauty of her work. Her tapestries hung in temples and wealthy homes, each one taking months or even years to complete. Every thread was placed with perfect precision, every color chosen with exquisite care. People would travel for days just to watch her work, marveling at how her fingers moved with such confidence across the loom. But what made Sachiko's work truly exceptional wasn't just her skill. It was her complete control over every aspect of the weaving process. She grew her own silk threads, dyeing them herself in colors she mixed from plants she cultivated in her own garden. She built her own looms from wood she selected personally, treating each piece until it met her exact specifications. She controlled the humidity in her workshop, the light that fell across her work, even the time of day she wove, believing that different hours produced subtly different results. Her students, who came from across the country to learn from her, would watch in awe as she explained the countless variables she managed. The silk must be exactly this tension, she would say, demonstrating on the loom. The light must come from this angle. The room must be this temperature. If any of these factors varies even slightly, the work will be flawed. And indeed, under these controlled conditions, Sachiko created masterpieces. Her tapestries were flawless, each one a testament to what human skill and determination could achieve through total control. She had spent 40 years perfecting her methods, eliminating every possible source of error or imperfection. Among her students was a young woman named Hana, barely 20 years old, who had come from a poor village in the north. Hana had shown natural talent with textiles from a young age, and her family had saved for years to send her to study with the great Sachiko. She watched her teacher with intense dedication, taking careful notes on every instruction, trying to memorize the thousands of rules and techniques. But Hana struggled. No matter how carefully she followed Sachiko's methods, her work never achieved the same perfection. She would check and recheck the tension of her threads, adjust and readjust the light, yet somehow small irregularities would always appear. A thread would catch slightly, a color would blend differently than planned. The pattern would shift by the tiniest margin. One autumn morning, disaster struck Sachiko's carefully controlled world. A severe storm swept down from the mountains with a ferocity no one had anticipated. The wind tore through the village, ripping tiles from roofs and uprooting trees that had stood for generations. Sachiko's workshop, built to her exact specifications to maintain perfect conditions, suffered terrible damage. The roof was torn away in several places, letting in rain that soaked her carefully organized materials. Her custom-built looms were damaged, their delicate mechanisms twisted by falling debris. Weeks of humidity control were undone in an hour as water poured through the broken roof. Most devastating of all, a large tapestry Sachiko had been working on for 18 months, commissioned by a powerful lord and nearly complete, was destroyed. The rain had washed away portions of the dyes she had so meticulously mixed, creating dark stains across the intricate patterns. The silk, soaked and then dried unevenly, had warped in places, pulling the entire piece out of alignment. When the storm passed and Sachiko surveyed the damage, her students waited tensely for her reaction. They had never seen her face any situation she couldn't control. Some expected rage at the unfairness of it all. Others anticipated grief at the loss of so much work. What they saw instead was something none of them had witnessed before in their meticulous, controlled teacher: complete stillness. Sachiko stood in the middle of her ruined workshop, water still dripping from the broken roof, and was utterly silent. Her face showed no emotion. Her hands, usually so purposeful and directed, hung loosely at her sides. She stood there for what felt like hours, though it was perhaps only minutes, just looking at the destruction of everything she had built. Finally, young Hana, unable to bear the silence, spoke softly. "Master Sachiko, I'm so sorry. All your work, all your careful preparations, destroyed in moments." Sachiko turned to look at her student, and what Hana saw in her teacher's face was not the devastation she expected, but something else, something she couldn't quite name. Emptiness, perhaps, or surrender. "All my work," Sachiko repeated quietly, as if tasting the words. "All my control." She walked slowly to what remained of her commissioned tapestry, the piece that was to have been her masterwork, the culmination of 40 years of perfecting her craft. She ran her fingers over the water-stained silk, feeling where the rain had altered what she had created. And then, something extraordinary happened. As Sachiko looked at the damaged tapestry, really looked at it without the filter of her expectations or her rules about how it should be, she noticed something she had never seen in any of her perfect, controlled work. Where the rain had washed across the silk, it had created patterns she could never have designed. The colors had bled and merged in ways that looked like mountains in mist, like clouds drifting across an autumn sky. The warping of the silk had created a texture, a dimensionality that her perfectly flat, perfectly controlled work had never possessed. The damage hadn't simply destroyed her tapestry, it had transformed it into something she couldn't have planned. Something that contained a beauty she had never been able to create through all her skill and control. The piece looked alive now in a way her perfect work never had. It looked like it had been touched by forces larger than human intention, forces that followed their own wild logic. "Hana," Sachiko said softly, still looking at the transformed tapestry. "Come here. Tell me what you see." Hana approached hesitantly, expecting to be asked to confirm the tragedy of the damaged piece. But when she looked closely at what the storm had created, she gasped. "Master, I've never seen anything so beautiful. It looks like the mountains after rain, like the world when mist is rising. It's beyond my control." Sachiko finished quietly. "And that's what makes it beautiful." She turned to face all her students who had gathered in the damaged workshop, and something in her face had changed fundamentally. The tight control, the constant vigilance, the heavy responsibility of maintaining perfection, all of it had softened into something gentler. "For 40 years, Sachiko began, her voice carrying a quality her students had never heard before, "I have believed that mastery meant control, total control. I eliminated every variable I could, managed every condition, prevented any possibility of chance or accident from entering my work. And yes, I created perfect pieces, flawless pieces." She walked slowly through the workshop, touching her damaged looms, her soaked materials, the remnants of her controlled environment. "But look what one storm taught me in a single hour. All my control was an illusion. I never controlled the silk. I only controlled my small workshop. I never controlled the weather. I only built walls against it. I never controlled beauty. I only created one narrow kind of beauty, the kind I could predict and plan." She picked up a handful of silk threads that had been dyed together by the storm's water, creating unexpected blends of color. "This is what I've been fighting against all these years. The uncontrollable, the unpredictable, the wild forces that don't follow my rules or care about my intentions. And in fighting against them, in trying to eliminate any possibility of their influence, I eliminated something essential." "What, Master?" one of the students asked softly. "Life," Sachiko replied. "Life itself, which is always uncontrollable, always flowing beyond our plans, always creating and destroying and transforming in ways we cannot predict. My perfect tapestries were beautiful, yes, but they were dead. Controlled things are always dead. Only what moves beyond control is truly alive. Over the following weeks, as the village rebuilt from the storm, Sachiko rebuilt her workshop differently. She repaired the roof, but she left windows where there had been solid walls, allowing natural light to vary across her workspace instead of the carefully controlled illumination she had maintained before. She fixed her looms, but she didn't obsess over making them exactly as they had been. She continued to weave, but she no longer tried to control every variable. Most remarkably, she began to deliberately introduce elements she couldn't fully control. She would weave outside sometimes, letting the natural variation in light affect her work. She would use silk from different sources, no longer insisting on growing and dyeing everything herself. She would sometimes let students whose skills were still developing work on portions of larger pieces, accepting that their contributions might not meet her old standards of perfection. The work she created in this new way was different. It had a looseness to it, a spontaneity. Sometimes there were small irregularities, tiny imperfections that would have horrified the old Sachiko. But these pieces had something her perfect work had lacked. They felt warm, they felt touched by human hands, they felt alive. Young Hana, watching her teacher's transformation, began to understand something she had been struggling with since arriving at the workshop. She had been trying to match Sachiko's control, to eliminate all imperfection from her work, and this striving had made her tense and fearful. She had been so afraid of making mistakes that she could barely move her hands across the loom. "Master Sachiko," Hana said one day as they worked side by side, the older woman no longer isolated in her perfect conditions, but weaving alongside her students. "I've been trying so hard to control my weaving, to make it perfect like yours used to be. But the harder I try, the worse it gets. My hands shake. I make more mistakes, not fewer." Sachiko smiled, a softness in her expression that had not been there before the storm. "The tighter you grip, the more slips through your fingers, like trying to hold water in a clenched fist. Do you know what I've discovered, Hana? Control and skill are not the same thing." "I don't understand," Hana admitted. "Skill is knowing how to work with the materials, understanding the techniques, having the experience to make informed choices. This I can teach you, and this you are learning. But control is the illusion that if we just manage everything perfectly, we can force the outcome we want. And this illusion, I now see, was making me a worse weaver, not a better one." Sachiko held up the piece she was working on. "Look, this thread here caught slightly when I was weaving. The old me would have undone the entire section and started again, eliminating the small irregularity. But I left it. And do you see? It creates a small ridge that catches the light differently. I couldn't have planned that effect. It's more interesting than anything I would have designed." "So, you're saying we should make mistakes on purpose?" Hana asked, confused. "No," Sachiko laughed, a sound her students had rarely heard. "I'm saying we should weave with skill and care, but without the terror of imperfection. We should do our best while understanding that our best will always include elements we didn't plan, factors we can't control. And these uncontrolled elements aren't flaws to be eliminated, they're life entering the work." She gestured to the damaged tapestry, which she had decided not to repair or remake, but to finish as the storm had altered it. "This piece taught me something profound. For 40 years I tried to keep nature out of my work, but nature was always there in the silk that came from worms, in the plant dyes, in the wood of my looms. I was working with life itself and pretending I could control it completely. The storm simply showed me the truth I had been denying." "That we can't control anything?" Hana asked. "That we can't control everything," Sachiko corrected. "There is a difference. We can control our actions, our choices, our responses. I can choose which threads to use, how to arrange them, when to weave. This is meaningful control. But I cannot control how the silk will age over years, how light will fall across the finished piece in someone else's home, how the threads will settle and shift with time and use. These things will happen as they happen, and fighting against them only exhausted me." Sachiko paused her weaving and looked directly at her student. "Here is what I learned, Hana. There is what we can control, our effort, our attention, our care, our skill. And there is what we cannot control, outcomes, weather, other people, time, the unexpected. Wisdom is knowing the difference. And when we can't control something, we let it be, Sachiko said simply. We surrender to it, not in defeat, but in recognition of reality. The storm came whether I wanted it or not. I could waste energy being angry about that, or I could respond to what actually happened. I could cling to my illusion of control and suffer, or I could release that illusion and work with what is. Take a gentle breath now, and let yourself settle a little deeper into rest. Notice how your body feels against whatever surface supports you. There's no need to adjust anything, no need to make yourself more comfortable. Just notice, and let yourself be exactly as you are. Sachiko's story shows us something that applies to every life, including yours. We all have areas where we believe if we could just control enough, manage enough, perfect enough, we could be safe from disappointment or loss or failure. We grip tightly, trying to force outcomes, trying to eliminate uncertainty, and this gripping exhausts us. It creates the very tension and fear we're trying to avoid. Think about your own life for a moment, if you'd like. Where are you holding too tightly? What are you trying to control that may be beyond your control? Perhaps it's someone else's feelings or choices. Perhaps it's outcomes at work, despite doing everything right. Perhaps it's your own thoughts or emotions, trying to force yourself to feel differently than you do. Perhaps it's time itself, wanting things to happen faster or slower than they naturally unfold. The Buddhist teaching that Sachiko discovered through the storm is called letting go. But it's not about giving up or stopping to care. It's about understanding the difference between what we can influence and what we cannot, and releasing our desperate grip on the things beyond our reach. This release doesn't make us weak, it makes us free. When we stop fighting reality, when we stop exhausting ourselves trying to control the uncontrollable, we discover that we have so much more energy for what we actually can do. We can meet life as it comes. We can respond with wisdom rather than react with fear. We can create and build and love without the constant terror that everything might fall apart. And here's what's most beautiful. Things might fall apart anyway. Storms come, plans fail, people change. This is the nature of life, which is always moving, always transforming, never staying exactly as we want it. But when we're not rigidly attached to our one specific outcome, when we're not clinging desperately to our perfect plan, we can discover beauty and possibility in what actually happens. Like Sachiko's rain-transformed tapestry, life often creates something more interesting than our controlled plans ever could. Let your breathing be natural now, uncontrolled, simply happening as it happens. Your body knows how to breathe without your management. Your heart knows how to beat. Your blood knows how to flow. So much is taking care of itself, beyond your control, and this is perfect. This is how it should be. Let's continue with another story, another example of what happens when we learn to distinguish between what we can control and what we must learn to release. There was a farmer named Kenzo who lived in a valley between mountains where he had cultivated rice fields for 30 years. Kenzo was known throughout the region not for the size of his harvest, which was modest, but for his constant worry. He worried about rain too much or too little. He worried about frost and heat, about insects and birds, about the price of rice at market and the health of his water buffalo. His neighbors said that Kenzo could find something to worry about in paradise itself. The interesting thing was that Kenzo was actually quite skilled at farming. He understood the land, knew when to plant and when to harvest, maintained his fields well, and worked with genuine dedication. But his worry made him miserable. He couldn't enjoy a sunny day because he worried it might not rain soon enough. He couldn't enjoy rain because he worried there might be too much. He lay awake at night, running through everything that could go wrong, trying to plan for every possibility, attempting to control outcomes through sheer force of anxious attention. His wife, Yuki, a woman of quiet patience, would sometimes say, "Kenzo, your worry doesn't change the weather, it only steals your peace." But Kenzo believed his worry was responsible vigilance, that if he stopped worrying, he would miss something important, fail to prepare, and disaster would strike. One spring, an old monk came walking through the valley. He was traveling from monastery to monastery, and he stopped at Kenzo's farm asking for a meal and a place to sleep. Kenzo and Yuki welcomed him, as was the custom, and fed him well. As they ate together that evening, the monk noticed how Kenzo kept getting up to check the sky, to look at his fields, to examine the seedlings he'd just planted. "You have beautiful land," the monk observed. "Yes, but the spring has been dry," Kenzo replied immediately. "If it doesn't rain in the next week, the seedlings will suffer. And I've heard there may be a late frost coming. Last year, the Tanaka farm lost half their crop to frost. I've been putting out smudge pots, but I don't know if I have enough. And I see," the monk said gently, interrupting the flow of worry. "Tell me, Kenzo, what do you control?" Kenzo looked confused. "What do you mean? Of all the things you're worried about, the rain, the frost, the insects, the market price, which of these do you control?" Kenzo paused, considering. "Well, I prepare for them, I watch for them, I do everything I can to." "That's not what I ask," the monk said, his voice kind but clear. "What do you control? Not what you prepare for or watch for. What can you actually control?" Kenzo sat with this question, his face troubled. Finally, he said, "I control my work. I control when I plant, how I maintain the fields, when I harvest. I control my actions." "Yes," the monk nodded. "And the weather? I cannot control the weather. The insects? I cannot control whether insects come. The market price? No, I cannot control that either. And yet," the monk said softly, "you carry all of these uncontrollable things in your mind as if they were your responsibility, as if your worry could change them. Tell me, has your worry ever changed the weather?" Kenzo was silent. "Has your worry ever stopped insects from coming or convinced them to leave?" Kenzo shook his head slowly. "Has your anxious attention ever altered the market price of rice?" "No," Kenzo admitted, his voice barely a whisper. The monk leaned forward, his eyes holding a warmth that Kenzo found himself trusting. "Then why do you carry these burdens, my friend? Why do you exhaust yourself trying to control things that are not yours to control? It's as if you're trying to hold up the sky with your bare hands. You cannot do it, and the effort is crushing you. But if I don't worry, if I don't stay vigilant, what if something goes wrong that I could have prevented?" "There's a difference," the monk explained, "between wise preparation and anxious control. Wise preparation means you do what you can do, you plant at the right time, you maintain your fields, you protect your seedlings with the smudge pots you have, and then you release the outcome. You've done your part. The weather will do its part. The insects will do theirs. The market will do its own thing. All of these forces were never yours to manage. But how do I stop worrying? The thoughts just come." "The thoughts will come," the monk agreed. "Worry is a habit of mind, and habits take time to change. But you can practice recognizing when you're worrying about things beyond your control. When you notice this, you can gently remind yourself, this is not mine to carry, and you can return your attention to what actually is yours, this moment, this action, this breath." The monk stayed 3 days on Kenzo's farm, and during those days, he taught Kenzo a practice. Whenever Kenzo found himself worrying about something, he was to ask himself 3 questions. Can I control this? Have I done what I can do? Can I release this to life itself? If something was beyond his control, if he had already done what he could do, then the answer was to release it, to physically let go of the tension in his body, to say inwardly, "I release this. This is not mine to carry." At first, this practice felt strange to Kenzo, almost irresponsible. His whole life had been built around constant vigilance, as if his attention could protect him from uncertainty. But he committed to trying what the monk taught, if only because his worry had made him so unhappy. The first test came just days after the monk left. Dark clouds gathered over the mountains, and Kenzo's immediate response was his familiar anxiety. Too much rain could flood the newly planted seedlings. But then he remembered, can I control this? No, he could not control whether it rained or how much. Have I done what I can do? Yes, he had planted at the right time, had prepared drainage channels in case of heavy rain. Can I release this to life itself? Kenzo stood in his field, looking up at the gathering storm, and he consciously relaxed his shoulders, which had been tight with tension. I release this, he said quietly. The rain will come or not come, heavy or light. This is not mine to control. And something extraordinary happened. The anxiety didn't disappear completely, but it loosened its grip. Kenzo found he could watch the storm approach with curiosity rather than dread. He could appreciate the beauty of the darkening sky, the smell of rain on the wind, without being consumed by worry about outcomes. The storm did come, and it was heavy, but Kenzo's drainage channels worked. Some seedlings were damaged, but most survived. And through it all, Kenzo practiced his new awareness. When worry arose, and it did arise, many times, he asked his 3 questions and practiced releasing what he could not control. Over the months and years that followed, Kenzo's transformation was noticed by everyone who knew him. He still worked diligently, still cared for his fields with skill and attention, but the constant tension, the perpetual anxiety, gradually released its hold. He could sleep at night now. He could enjoy a sunny day without immediately worrying about drought. He could appreciate his harvest, whatever its size, because he knew he had done his part and released the rest. Yuki, his wife, said that it was like living with a different person. The Kenzo she had married had been eaten alive by worry. This Kenzo, the one who had learned to distinguish between his responsibility and what lay beyond his control, was at peace. Not because nothing ever went wrong, storms still came, insects still appeared, market prices still fluctuated, but because he had stopped carrying the weight of trying to control the uncontrollable. One autumn evening, as they sat together watching the sunset over the harvested fields, Yuki asked him, "What did that monk teach you that changed you so much?" Kenzo thought for a long moment. "He taught me that I had been trying to do the impossible. I had been trying to control life itself, the weather, the future, all the thousands of factors that make up a growing season. And in trying to control all of this, I was making myself miserable and not actually changing anything. And now I do what I can do. I plant well, I tend the fields, I prepare for what I can prepare for, and then I release the rest. I let the rain be rain, whether it comes or doesn't come. I let the seasons be seasons. I let life be life. And I've discovered something amazing." "What's that?" "That life takes care of itself much better than I ever took care of it through worry. The rice grows, the seasons turn, the harvest comes. All of this happened before I was born and will continue after I'm gone. My job is not to control it all. My job is to participate in it, to do my part, and to trust the larger process." Yuki smiled, taking his hand. "You seem happy now, truly happy." "I am," Kenzo said simply. "Not because everything always goes perfectly. Yesterday's wind damaged some of the drying racks, and next week's market price might be low. But I'm happy because I'm not at war with reality anymore. I'm not trying to force life to be different than it is. I'm working with what is and releasing what I cannot change. There's a peace in that, a freedom I never knew was possible." He paused, watching the colors shift across the sky. The monk said something before he left that I think about often. He said, "Kenzo, you have been carrying the sky on your shoulders, trying to hold it up through sheer will, but the sky holds itself. It has always held itself. You can put it down now." "And did you?" Yuki asked. "Put it down? I'm still learning," Kenzo admitted. "Old habits of worry still arise. But more and more, I'm able to recognize them for what they are, thoughts. Just thoughts, not reality. And I'm able to ask myself, is this mine to control? Have I done what I can do? Can I release this?" And usually, the answer is yes. I can release it. I can let the sky hold itself. Take another gentle breath now, and notice how reading or listening to these stories affects your body. Perhaps there's a little less tension than when we began. Perhaps your shoulders have dropped slightly, or your jaw has softened, or perhaps nothing has changed yet, and that's perfectly fine too. There's no right way to receive these teachings. They're simply here, like rain falling equally on all the fields. Kenzo's story touches something we all experience. The human mind is so skilled at worry, at trying to manage and control and prevent and prepare. And some preparation is wise. Kenzo still maintained his fields, still planted at the right times. The Buddhist teaching isn't that we should stop caring or stop acting. It's that we should stop carrying the impossible burden of trying to control what is not ours to control. Think about worry itself for a moment. What is worry, really? It's the mind traveling into an imagined future, trying to solve problems that haven't happened yet, trying to prevent outcomes we fear. And sometimes this is useful. We think ahead, we plan, we prepare. But most of our worry goes far beyond useful planning. Most of our worry is the mind spinning and spinning, rehearsing disasters, playing out scenarios, trying to control through anxious attention what we cannot actually control through any means. The Buddha taught that one of the primary causes of suffering is this quality he called tanha, often translated as craving or attachment, but perhaps better understood as this desperate grasping, this insistence that things be different than they are. We grasp at outcomes we want. We push away outcomes we fear. And in all this grasping and pushing, we create our own inner turbulence, regardless of what's actually happening in our lives. Kenzo discovered that he could still care for his fields, still work with dedication and skill, while releasing his grip on the outcomes. He could do his part without carrying the weight of trying to control all the parts that were never his to manage. And in this release, he found not irresponsibility but freedom, not carelessness but peace. This is available to you too. Not all at once, not through some sudden transformation, but gradually, through practice. When you notice yourself worrying about something beyond your control, you can gently ask, is this mine to control? Have I done what I can do? Can I release this now? And you might find, as Kenzo did, that yes, you can release it. You can let the sky hold itself. Let your eyes close if they haven't already, or let your gaze soften if you prefer to keep them open. Let your breath be exactly as it is. No need to breathe deeply or slowly or in any particular way. Just let your body breathe itself, which it has been doing since the moment you were born, without any help from your conscious mind. Now, let's explore another aspect of this teaching about control, through the story of a woman who learned that trying to control others is perhaps the most exhausting impossibility of all. In a town at the edge of a great forest lived a woman named Ayame, who was known as the most capable person in the community. She managed her household efficiently, ran a successful shop selling pottery and textiles, and was involved in every community organization. People admired her, but they also found her exhausting to be around, though they couldn't quite say why. The truth was that Ayame didn't just manage her own life, she tried to manage everyone else's too. She had strong opinions about how her husband should spend his time, how her adult children should raise their own children, how her employees should organize their work, how her neighbors should maintain their gardens. She offered advice constantly, often advice that hadn't been requested. And when people didn't follow her suggestions, she felt frustrated and hurt. "I'm only trying to help," she would say when her husband grew quiet after another evening of her suggestions about how he could be more efficient, more productive, more like she thought he should be. "I can see what you're doing wrong. I'm just trying to save you from mistakes." Her daughter, Emiko, had learned to visit less and less frequently. Every visit became an ordeal of judgment and suggestions how she was raising her children wrong, managing her home wrong, making poor decisions about her work. Emiko loved her mother but dreaded seeing her. The thing was, Ayame didn't see herself as controlling. She saw herself as helpful, as caring, as someone who could see solutions clearly and only wanted what was best for everyone. The fact that her relationships were strained, that people avoided her, that her husband had grown distant and her daughter rarely visited, she attributed this to their stubbornness, their inability to accept good advice. One day, a traveling tea master came to the town, and Ayame attended one of her demonstrations. The tea master, an elderly woman named Setsuko, moved with a quality that Ayame found both fascinating and irritating. She seemed completely unhurried, totally unconcerned with efficiency or productivity. She made tea as if she had all the time in the world, with a calm attention that made each movement seem like its own complete moment. After the demonstration, Ayame approached her. "Your tea ceremony is beautiful," she began, "but if I may offer some suggestions, you could make the process much more efficient. For instance, you could prepare the water while you're arranging the utensils, rather than doing each step separately. And the way you fold the cloth, there's a faster method that would save time." Setsuko looked at Ayame with eyes that seemed to see everything. "Thank you for your observations," she said simply, Would you like to learn tea ceremony? Ayame was surprised. Learn? But I just told you how it could be improved. Yes, Setsuko said with a small smile. That is why I think you should learn. Come tomorrow morning, if you wish. Something in the way Setsuko spoke made Ayame curious enough to return the next day. Setsuko led her to a small tea house at the edge of the forest. We will begin with sitting, Setsuko said, settling herself on a cushion. Sitting? But I came to learn tea ceremony. Yes, and tea ceremony begins with sitting. Please. Ayame sat, though she couldn't understand why this was necessary. Couldn't they just get to the actual techniques? But Setsuko seemed content to sit in silence. So, Ayame tried to wait patiently, though her mind was busy planning her day, reviewing what needed to be done at her shop, thinking about what she would suggest to her husband that evening. After what felt like a very long time but was perhaps 15 minutes, Setsuko spoke. Notice how active your mind is. Notice how it's trying to be anywhere but here, doing anything but sitting. Ayame startled, realizing this was exactly true. This is where we begin, Setsuko continued. Not with the tea, but with your own mind. Tell me, Ayame, why do you think you need to control everything and everyone around you? The question hit Ayame like cold water. I don't. I'm not controlling. I'm just helpful. I see what needs to be done, and I help people do it. And do they ask for this help? Ayame was silent. And when they don't follow your advice, how do you feel? Frustrated, Ayame admitted, and hurt. I'm only trying to help them avoid mistakes. I can see clearly what they should do. Can you? Setsuko asked gently. Can you really see what another person should do? Can you know their path better than they know it themselves? Well, I have experience. I can see things objectively that they can't see because they're too close to their own situations. Setsuko poured water into a bowl and held it out to Ayame. Hold this, she said. Ayame took the bowl, wondering what this had to do with anything. Now make the water be still. Without moving your hands, without setting it down, make the water become perfectly still. Ayame held the bowl as steadily as she could, but her hands had a natural tremor, and the water continued to move slightly, tiny ripples crossing its surface. The harder she tried to hold perfectly still, the more she tensed, and the more the water moved. I can't, she finally said. No, Setsuko agreed. You cannot control the water by trying to force it to be still. But watch what happens when you set the bowl down and stop trying to control it. Ayame set the bowl on the ground between them. Slowly, without any effort on her part, the water settled. Within a minute, its surface was perfectly still, reflecting the ceiling of the tea house like a mirror. The water becomes still when you stop trying to control it, Setsuko said. This is true of water. It is true of people. It is true of life itself. The more tightly we grip, the more control we try to exert, the more disturbance we create. But when we release our grip, when we stop trying to force things to be as we think they should be, natural stillness emerges. Ayame stared at the now still water, something shifting in her understanding. Your husband, your daughter, your employees, your neighbors, they are all like this water. They have their own nature, their own path, their own wisdom. When you constantly try to control them, to make them be as you think they should be, you create disturbance in them and suffering in yourself. But when you release them, when you stop trying to manage their lives, they can find their own stillness, their own way. But what if they make mistakes? Ayame asked, her voice small. What if I can see they're heading toward problems and I say nothing? Then they make mistakes, Setsuko said simply. And they learn from those mistakes, which is how human beings have always learned. Tell me, Ayame, did you learn more from the times everything went smoothly according to someone else's plan, or from the times you stumbled and had to find your own way? Ayame thought about this honestly. From my mistakes, she admitted, from the times I had to figure things out myself, and yet you want to deprive everyone around you of this same learning, this same growth. You want to smooth their path, eliminate their mistakes, control their journey. And why? Because you think you know better? I suppose I do think I know better. And is this true? Do you know the full complexity of your daughter's life, all the factors she must balance, all the considerations that inform her choices? Do you know the inner experience of your husband? What brings him peace? What matters to him most deeply? Ayame sat with these questions, and slowly, reluctantly, she shook her head. No, I suppose I don't. None of us know another person's full reality, Setsuko said. We barely know our own, and yet we convince ourselves we know what others should do, how they should live. This is not help, this is control. And it comes not from wisdom, but from fear. Fear. Ayame was surprised. Yes, fear that if we don't manage everything, if we don't keep tight control, things will fall apart. Fear that we're only valuable if we're fixing and managing and controlling. Fear of our own helplessness in a world that is ultimately beyond our control. Setsuko, let this sit in the silence for a long moment before continuing. The tea ceremony will teach you something important, if you allow it. It will teach you that beauty and harmony emerge not from control but from presence, not from forcing things to be a certain way, but from participating skillfully with what is. Each movement in tea ceremony is precise, yes, but not controlled in the way you mean. It flows, it responds, it works with the tea, with the water, with the moment, rather than trying to dominate them. Over the following weeks, Ayame came every morning to learn from Setsuko, and slowly, through the practice of tea ceremony, through the patient repetition of each simple movement, through the discipline of being fully present with exactly what was happening rather than rushing ahead to what should happen next, Ayame began to change. She began to notice her constant impulse to control, to manage, to advise, and she began to practice something new, restraint. When she felt the urge to tell her husband what he should do, she would pause, take a breath, and ask herself, is this mine to control? Is this truly helpful, or am I trying to manage what is not mine to manage? More often than not, the answer was that it was not hers to control. Her husband was an adult, capable of making his own choices. Her daughter was a mother herself now, perfectly capable of raising her children without constant instruction. Her employees were skilled people who didn't need to be micromanaged. The hardest thing Ayame had to learn was how to offer help only when asked, and how to accept when her help was declined. She had to learn that other people's choices, even when she disagreed with them, even when she could clearly see a better way, were not hers to make. She had to learn to trust that people could find their own paths, make their own mistakes, and discover their own wisdom. The transformation wasn't instantaneous. Old habits of mind ran deep, and Ayame would often catch herself mid-sentence, about to offer unsolicited advice, about to tell someone what they should do, but increasingly, she was able to stop herself. She would take a breath, remember the bowl of water and how it only became still when she stopped trying to control it, and she would choose silence instead. The first time her daughter Emiko noticed the change, she was talking about a difficulty she was having with one of her children. Ayame listened, really listened, without formulating advice while Emiko spoke, and when Emiko finished, Ayame surprised both of them by simply saying, "That sounds hard. I'm sorry you're dealing with that." No suggestions, no criticism of how Emiko should have handled it differently, no list of things to try, just acknowledgement, just presence. Emiko stared at her mother for a long moment, tears suddenly filling her eyes. "Thank you," she whispered. "I just needed someone to hear me." And Ayame realized with a shock that she had never simply listened to her daughter before. She had always been so busy formulating solutions, so convinced she needed to fix everything, that she had never just been present with Emiko's experience. She had tried to control her daughter's life, to manage her problems, when what Emiko had needed all along was simply to be seen and heard. "I'm sorry," Ayame said quietly. "I'm sorry I've always tried to fix everything instead of just being with you." "Mom," Emiko said, reaching across the table to take her mother's hand. "What happened? You seem different." "I'm learning something," Ayame said. "I'm learning to let go of what isn't mine to control. And I'm realizing that your life, your choices, your path, these were never mine to control. I'm sorry it took me so long to understand that." From that day forward, their relationship began to heal. Emiko started visiting more often, staying longer, sharing more of her life, and Ayame practiced simply receiving what her daughter shared, offering support and presence rather than control and correction. With her husband, the change was even more profound. One evening, she watched him choosing to spend his time reading poetry rather than working on the house projects she had listed for him. The old Ayame would have launched into a speech about productivity and responsibility, but the new Ayame, the one who was learning to release her grip on others' choices, took a breath. Is this mine to control? No. Her husband was not a project to be managed. He was a person with his own values, his own preferences, his own right to spend his free time as he chose. She poured herself tea and sat near him, saying nothing. He looked up, surprised, perhaps expecting criticism. Instead, she smiled. "What are you reading?" He told her about the poems, and they talked, really talked for the first time in years. Not about what needed to be done or what he should be doing differently, but about ideas and beauty and what moved him. That evening, Ayame saw her husband as if for the first time, not as someone who needed to be fixed or improved, but as someone whole and complete, with his own inner life that she had been too busy trying to control to actually see. "I've been trying to make you into someone different," she said, that night, as they were preparing for bed. "I've been so focused on what I thought you should be, that I've been blind to who you actually are. And I'm sorry." Her husband, a quiet man who had withdrawn into himself over the years of being constantly managed and corrected, looked at her with an expression she couldn't quite read. "What changed?" he asked. "I learned about water," Ayame said. "I learned that when you try to force it to be still, you only create more disturbance. But when you let it be, it finds its own stillness. And I'm the water in this metaphor?" He smiled slightly. "We all are," Ayame said. "I've been trying to force everyone to be still in the way I thought they should be still, to be right in the way I thought was right. And all I've done is create disturbance in you, in Emiko, in everyone around me, and in myself most of all." "You've seemed happier lately," he observed. "More at peace." "I am," Ayame said, surprised by the truth of it. "I'm exhausted from trying to control everything. It's such hard work, trying to manage everyone's life. And I'm beginning to see it was never my job. My job is to live my own life well, to manage my own choices and actions. Everyone else gets to do the same with theirs, even when they make mistakes, especially then," Ayame said. "Because that's how we all learn, that's how we all grow." Months passed, and Ayame continued her tea ceremony practice with Setsuko. The movements became more natural, less forced. She stopped trying to make the tea ceremony be anything other than what it was in each moment. Sometimes her hands were steady, sometimes they trembled, sometimes the tea was perfect, sometimes it wasn't, and all of it was fine, all of it was part of the practice. One morning, as they sat together after preparing tea, Setsuko said, "You've changed significantly since we began. Tell me what you've learned." Ayame thought carefully. "I've learned that control is an illusion. I thought I was helping people by trying to manage their lives, but I was really just trying to manage my own anxiety about not being in control. I thought if I could just get everyone to do things the right way, my way, then everything would be safe and good. But life doesn't work like that." "No," Setsuko agreed. "Life has its own current, its own movement. We can participate in it, we can respond to it with skill and care, but we cannot control it. I've also learned," Ayame continued, "that letting go of control doesn't mean not caring. I thought if I stopped trying to fix everyone and everything, I would be irresponsible or uncaring. But I've discovered the opposite is true. When I stopped trying to control my daughter, I could actually see her and love her for who she is. When I stopped trying to control my husband, I could actually appreciate him and connect with him. Releasing control opened up space for real relationship. This is wisdom," Setsuko said. "The tightest grip holds nothing. The open hand can receive everything." "I still have impulses to control," Ayame admitted. "Old habits arise, but now I notice them. I can feel when I'm trying to grab onto something that isn't mine to hold. And I'm learning to release it, to open my hand, to trust that people can manage their own lives and that life itself will unfold as it unfolds. Setsuko smiled, the warm smile of a teacher watching a student truly understand. You came to me wanting to improve the efficiency of tea ceremony. But tea ceremony doesn't exist to be efficient. It exists to teach us to be present, to work with what is rather than what we wish would be, to participate in each moment with full attention and without trying to force outcomes. You have learned this now. I have, Ayame said, and it's changed everything. Years later, Ayame's daughter Emiko told a friend, "My mother used to be the most controlling person I knew. Being around her was exhausting. She had an opinion about everything, advice for every situation, corrections for every choice. But then something changed. She learned to let go, and the relationship we have now, I can actually be myself with her. I can share my struggles without being told what I'm doing wrong. I can make my own choices without constant pressure to do things her way. It's given me back my mother." And Ayame herself, when asked about the change, would say simply, "I learned that other people are not mine to control. Their lives, their choices, their mistakes, their victories, these belong to them. My life is the only life I get to manage, and that's more than enough. In fact, it's a full-time job just living my own life well, without taking on the impossible task of trying to live everyone else's lives for them." She would pause, smile, and add, "The strange thing is, since I stopped trying to control everyone, my relationships have never been better. People actually want to be around me now. They share things with me because they know I'll just listen, not try to fix them. I've discovered that presence is a much greater gift than advice, and releasing control has given me something I never had when I was constantly managing everything. Peace." Take a deep breath now, and as you exhale, let your body soften a little more. Notice any places where you're still holding tension, perhaps in your jaw, your shoulders, your hands. You don't need to force yourself to relax. Just notice and see if those areas can soften on their own, naturally, without effort. Ayame's story shows us something crucial about control and relationships. We cannot control other people. We cannot make them think differently, feel differently, choose differently. Every attempt to do so creates suffering for them and for us. The tighter we try to hold on to people, the more they pull away. The more we try to shape them into who we think they should be, the less we can actually see and love who they are. This is one of the most difficult lessons for many of us, because we tell ourselves we're trying to control others for their own good, because we care, because we can see what they should do. But underneath this, if we're very honest, is often our own discomfort with not being in control. We try to manage others because we're afraid they'll make mistakes, afraid things won't turn out well, afraid that if we're not managing everything, chaos will reign. But here's the truth that Ayame discovered. People are capable. They can handle their own lives. They can make mistakes and learn from them. They can find their own way. And when we release our grip on controlling them, when we trust them to manage their own existence, we give them a profound gift, the gift of autonomy, of being seen as capable, of being trusted to navigate their own path. And we give ourselves a gift too. We release the exhausting burden of trying to manage what was never ours to manage. We free up enormous energy that was being spent on trying to control the uncontrollable. We open space for actual relationship, for seeing people as they are, rather than as we wish they'd be, for connecting with their real experience rather than trying to correct it. If you find yourself trying to control others, you can practice what Ayame learned. When you feel the urge to give advice that hasn't been asked for, to correct someone's choices, to manage how they're living their life, pause. Take a breath. Ask yourself, is this mine to control? Is this help that's been requested? Or am I trying to manage what isn't mine to manage? More often than not, you'll find that other people's lives are not yours to control. And you can practice the difficult, liberating work of releasing your grip, of trusting people to make their own choices, of offering support when asked but not imposing it when it isn't wanted, of being present with people as they are rather than trying to force them to be different. This release will lighten you. It will free you from an impossible burden, and it will transform your relationships in ways you cannot predict but can trust will be good. Let yourself rest now into this moment, just as it is. Notice that in this moment, right now, you don't have to control anything. Your breath is breathing itself. Your heart is beating itself. Life is taking care of so much without your management. Can you let it? Can you rest into this reality that you are held by life itself, that you don't have to hold everything together through force of will? Just rest. There's nothing you need to do right now, nowhere you need to be, nothing you need to figure out or fix or manage. This time is simply for being, for allowing, for releasing. Let's continue our journey with another story. This one about what happens when we try to control our own inner experience, our thoughts, our emotions, our feelings. This is perhaps the subtlest form of control and one of the most common causes of suffering. In a coastal village where the ocean met steep cliffs, there lived a fisherman named Daichi who had recently lost his son to illness. The grief was overwhelming, a pain so large that Daichi felt he might drown in it. He had always been known as a strong man, practical and steady, and he believed that strong people should be able to control their emotions, to push through pain without letting it slow them down. So Daichi tried to control his grief. When tears came, he pushed them away. When memories of his son arose, he forced his mind to think of something else, his work, his boat, anything but the unbearable loss. When neighbors spoke kindly to him, offering sympathy, he would nod briefly and change the subject, unwilling to let anyone see how much he was suffering. I have to be strong for my wife, he told himself. I have to keep working, keep providing. I cannot afford to fall apart. But grief doesn't respond to control. The more Daichi tried to push it away, the more it consumed him from within. He couldn't sleep when he lay down at night. The emotions he'd been suppressing all day would rise up with such force that he'd lie awake for hours, fighting them. He couldn't eat food tasted like ash. He became irritable with his wife, snapping at her when she cried, unable to bear witnessing her pain because it reminded him of his own. His wife, Hannah, a woman of deep feeling and wisdom, watched her husband withdraw into himself. She saw how he was trying to be strong, trying to control his grief, and she saw how it was destroying him. But whenever she tried to talk to him about their loss, about their son, Daichi would shut down or walk away. I'm fine, he would insist. I'm managing, we just need to move forward. But he wasn't fine, and he wasn't managing, and they weren't moving forward. They were stuck, frozen, with Daichi spending all his energy trying to control what could not be controlled. One evening, an old woman came to their door. She was a healer from a village further up the coast, traveling through the region. Hannah welcomed her, offered her food and a place to rest. As they sat together, the old woman, whose name was Chiyo, looked carefully at Daichi. You're carrying something very heavy, she observed. I'm fine, Daichi said automatically, his practiced response. No, Chiyo said gently. You're not fine, you're drowning. And the thing that's drowning you is not your grief, it's your fight against your grief. Daichi stiffened. I don't know what you mean. You lost your son, Chiyo said simply. This is a fact I can see in your eyes, in how your wife moves around you like she's afraid you might shatter. And you believe that to survive this loss, you must control your pain, push it down, not let it break you. Yes, Daichi said nothing, but his jaw tightened. This is a common mistake, Chiyo continued, her voice holding no judgment, only understanding. We believe that difficult emotions are something to be conquered, controlled, eliminated. We think that strength means not feeling pain, but this is backwards. Grief is not the enemy. Your fight against grief is what's exhausting you. What am I supposed to do then? Daichi asked, his voice rough. Just let myself fall apart? Just sit around crying all day? I have responsibilities. I have to provide for my wife. I have to keep going. Yes, Chiyo agreed. You do have to keep going, but you cannot successfully push a river underground. You cannot dam grief up inside yourself and expect to remain whole. Grief is like the ocean. She gestured toward the sound of waves beyond the house. It comes in waves, and the only way through it is to let it move through you. I don't understand. Chiyo stood and walked to the window, looking out at the darkening sea. Come here, she said. Daichi joined her reluctantly. Watch the ocean. See how the waves come. They rise, they crest, they crash against the shore, they recede. Rise, crash, recede. Rise, crash, recede. This is their nature. Now imagine if you stood at the shore trying to push the waves back, trying to make the ocean be still because you didn't want to deal with its movement. What would happen? I'd be exhausted, Daichi said, and I'd fail. You can't stop the ocean. Exactly. And grief is like this. It rises, it crashes through you, it recedes. Rise, crash, recede. This is its nature. You cannot stop it, but you can let it move through you instead of fighting it. You can stand in the waves instead of trying to push them back. But if I let myself feel it fully, I'm afraid. Daichi's voice cracked. I'm afraid I'll never stop crying. I'm afraid the pain will destroy me. This is the fear that makes people fight their grief, Chiyo said softly. But here's what I've learned from many years of sitting with people in pain. Emotions are like waves. They rise to their peak, and then they recede. Always. If you allow them to move through you without fighting them, they rise, they peak, they pass. But when you fight them, when you try to control them and push them down, they get stuck. They circle and circle inside you. Never fully felt, never released. This is what's destroying you, not the grief itself, but the suppressed grief that cannot move through you because you won't allow it. Hana, who had been listening quietly, spoke for the first time. I've been trying to tell him this, that we need to grieve together, to feel this together. But he won't. I'm trying to protect you, Daichi said to his wife, his voice desperate. I'm trying to be strong for you, but I don't need you to be strong, Hana said, tears streaming down her face. I need you to be real. I need you to grieve with me. I lost our son too, and I've been so alone in this pain because you won't share it with me. Your strength is pushing me away. Daichi looked at his wife as if seeing her for the first time in months. He saw the loneliness in her eyes, the way she'd been carrying her grief alone while he fought his own pain in isolation, and something in him cracked open. I don't know how, he whispered. I don't know how to stop fighting it. Chiyo moved to stand before him, her old eyes kind. You start by simply allowing. The next time grief rises, and it will rise, probably very soon, instead of pushing it away, you let it be there. You don't fight it. You don't try to make it go away. You simply feel it, fully, and you trust that it will peak and then recede. Like the waves, it won't destroy you. It will move through you, and if I can't stop crying, then you cry until the wave passes. And then it will pass, and you'll breathe again. And then another wave will come, maybe in an hour, maybe in a day, and you'll let that one pass through you too. Gradually, the waves will come less frequently. They'll be less intense. But they never fully stop coming. Grief changes us, becomes part of us. We learn to live with the ocean of loss, but we can only do this if we stop fighting the waves. That night, after Chiyo had retired to the guest room, Daichi sat with his wife in the silence of their home, and for the first time since their son's death, he didn't try to push away what he was feeling. He let himself remember his boy, his laugh, his small hands, his questions about everything. And the grief rose like a wave, huge and overwhelming. Daichi's first instinct was to push it down, to force himself to think of something else. But he remembered Chiyo's words, "Let it move through you." So he did something he hadn't done since the funeral. He let himself cry. The sobs came from somewhere deep in his chest, a sound of pure pain. His wife moved closer to him, and instead of pulling away, he let her hold him. They cried together, finally, the grief flowing through them both. Not controlled, not managed, just allowed to be. And what Chiyo had said was true. The wave rose to an almost unbearable peak. Daichi felt like the pain might tear him apart, but then, gradually, it began to recede. The crying slowed, his breathing steadied. He felt empty, exhausted, but somehow cleaner, lighter. The grief had moved through him instead of staying trapped inside. "I miss him so much," Daichi said to his wife, the first time he'd spoken these words aloud. "I miss him too," Hana replied. "So much. Every moment." They sat together in their shared pain, no longer isolated by Daichi's attempts to control his grief, finally connected in their loss. Over the following weeks and months, Daichi practiced what Chiyo had taught him. When grief came, and it came often, in unexpected moments, triggered by small things that reminded him of his son, he didn't fight it. He let the wave rise, let himself feel the full force of it, and trusted that it would pass. Sometimes he cried quietly while mending his nets. Sometimes he had to stop working and sit with the pain for a while. Sometimes he and Hana grieved together, sharing memories, holding each other through the waves. The grief didn't go away, but it changed. It became something he could live with instead of something he was constantly fighting. And in no longer trying to control his pain, Daichi found he had energy for other things again. He could appreciate a sunrise. He could laugh at something. Though the laughter was bittersweet, he could be present with his wife instead of withdrawn and defended. One day, many months after Chiyo's visit, Hana said to him, "You're different now. I have my husband back, though we're both changed by what we've lost." "I learned something hard," Daichi replied. "I learned that I can't control what I feel. I can only control whether I fight my feelings or allow them. Fighting them nearly destroyed me. Allowing them, it's painful, but it's honest. It's real. And somehow, being with the pain honestly is more bearable than trying to push it away." "Chiyo told me something before she left," Hana said. "She said that grief is love with nowhere to go. We grieve because we loved, and the depth of our grief is the measure of our love. We cannot control grief because we cannot and should not control love." Daichi nodded slowly. "I wouldn't want to control my love for our son. Even though he's gone, that love is still real, still precious. And the grief is part of that love. It's the price we pay for having loved so deeply, and I would pay it again. I would choose to love him again, even knowing I would lose him, even knowing it would hurt this much." They sat quietly, watching the ocean through their window. The waves came and went, endless and rhythmic. And Daichi understood now that he was like the shore. He couldn't stop the waves of grief from coming, but he could learn to let them wash over him and recede, without being destroyed by them. "The ocean is not our enemy," he said quietly. "And grief is not our enemy. They're both just forces larger than us, forces we can't control. We can only learn to live with them, to let them be what they are." Take a gentle breath now, and notice how your body feels after hearing Daichi's story. Perhaps you recognize something of yourself in his struggle. Most of us have tried, at some point, to control our own feelings, to push away what's uncomfortable, to force ourselves to feel differently than we do, to manage our inner experience as if emotions were problems to be solved rather than waves to be experienced. The Buddha taught about this very directly. He said that suffering comes not from pain itself, but from our resistance to pain. When we experience something difficult and we add to it our fight against it, our wish that it were different, our belief that we shouldn't be feeling this way, this resistance creates a second layer of suffering on top of the original pain. Daichi experienced this. His son's death was a real loss, a genuine pain. But the exhaustion, the isolation, the inability to sleep or eat, the damage to his relationship with his wife, these came not from the grief itself, but from his fight against the grief. When he finally allowed the grief to move through him without resistance, the suffering lessened, even though the loss remained. This is true for all difficult emotions. Anxiety, anger, sadness, fear, these are natural human experiences. They arise based on conditions. They peak, they pass. But when we try to control them, suppress them, eliminate them, we create struggle on top of the original feeling. We suffer from the emotion and from our fight against it. The practice, then, is not to control what you feel, but to allow what you feel. To notice when emotions arise and to meet them with a quality of allowing rather than fighting. This doesn't mean you act on every emotion or let emotions dictate your behavior. It means you acknowledge what's present internally while choosing your actions consciously. You can feel angry and not lash out. You can feel afraid and still move forward. You can feel grief and still function. The emotions and your actions are separate. You control your actions, but you allow your feelings. This is one of the most liberating teachings in all of Buddhism. You don't have to control your inner experience. You can let the waves of emotion rise and fall, like the ocean that Daichi watched. Your feelings are not you, they're weather patterns moving through you. You are the space in which they arise and pass. You are the sky, and emotions are clouds passing across it. Some clouds are dark and heavy, some are light and bright, but all of them move. None of them stay forever. Let your body soften a bit more now. Let your jaw be loose, your shoulders heavy. There's no effort needed here, no work to be done. Just this gentle receiving of these teachings, and if you find yourself drifting towards sleep, that's perfectly fine. Sleep itself is a kind of letting go, a surrender of control. Your consciousness can release its grip, trusting that your body will continue breathing, your heart will keep beating, all without your management. Let's explore one more aspect of control through another story. This one about a person who learned that we cannot control outcomes, no matter how perfectly we do our work. In a city known for its beautiful gardens, there lived a gardener named Takeshi, who was considered the finest in the region. People would travel great distances to see the gardens he designed and tended, marveling at the perfect arrangement of plants, the harmonious blend of colors and textures, the way each garden seemed to capture a particular mood or feeling. Takeshi's skill was undeniable. He understood plants deeply, their needs, their seasons, their preferences. He could look at a space and envision exactly what would thrive there. He worked with meticulous care, placing each stone, selecting each plant, attending to every detail with a devotion that bordered on obsession. But Takeshi suffered from a constant anxiety. No matter how perfectly he designed a garden, no matter how skillfully he planted and tended it, he could not control what happened after his work was done. A wealthy patron might love the garden when it was first completed, but then grow dissatisfied and hire someone else to improve it, destroying Takeshi's vision. Plants he had carefully selected would be removed or replaced with trendy varieties that clashed with his design. Or a garden he'd spent months creating would be neglected by its owners, plants dying from lack of water, weeds taking over, the careful balance he'd created collapsing into chaos. Or weather would devastate his work, a harsh winter killing plants, a summer drought withering his careful arrangements, a storm toppling trees he'd planted. Takeshi took all of this personally. When a client changed his designs, he felt hurt and angry. When gardens were neglected, he felt his work had been disrespected. When weather destroyed what he'd created, he felt defeated. He would lie awake at night thinking about his gardens, worrying about them, suffering over what might be happening to them beyond his control. His apprentice, a young woman named Yuki, noticed how much her master suffered. "Your gardens are beautiful," she would tell him. "Everyone admires your work. Why can't you be satisfied?" "Because I create something perfect," Takeshi would reply, his voice tight with frustration. "And then I have to watch it be destroyed or changed or neglected. What's the point of creating beauty if it's not maintained?" Yuki didn't have an answer to this, but she worried about her master. His suffering seemed out of proportion to reality. Yes, sometimes gardens changed from his original vision, but often they evolved in interesting ways. Yes, some were neglected, but many were lovingly maintained. Yes, weather sometimes damaged his work, but gardens had always existed in relationship with weather that was their nature. One spring, Takeshi was commissioned to create a garden for a temple on the outskirts of the city. The head monk, a man named Enzo, wanted a meditation garden, something simple and contemplative. Takeshi threw himself into the project with his usual intensity, designing a space of exquisite subtlety. He spent weeks selecting each stone for the rock garden, raking the gravel into patterns that suggested ripples in water, placing a single cherry tree in precisely the right spot, creating an arrangement that was both serene and dynamic. When the garden was completed, it was perhaps Takeshi's finest work. The head monk was delighted. "You've created a space where the mind can rest," Enzo said. "This garden teaches stillness." Takeshi felt satisfied for perhaps a day. Then the anxiety began. What if the monks didn't maintain the gravel patterns properly? What if they let weeds grow in the moss? What if the cherry tree died? He found himself returning to the temple every few days to check on the garden, to fix small things, to ensure everything remained as he'd intended it. Finally, Enzo invited Takeshi to sit with him in the meditation hall overlooking the garden. "Your creation is beautiful," the monk said, "but I sense you're suffering over it. Can you tell me why?" "I'm worried about the garden," Takeshi admitted. "I want to make sure it's properly maintained, that it stays as I designed it, that nothing destroys what I've created." Enzo nodded thoughtfully. "Come with me," he said. He led Takeshi into the garden, to a corner where Takeshi had carefully arranged moss to grow over several stones. A weed had sprouted there, pushing up through the moss. Takeshi moved immediately to pull it out, but Enzo stopped him. "Look at it first," the monk said. "Really look at it." Takeshi looked at the weed, just common grass, something he would normally remove without a second thought. But as he looked more carefully, he noticed how the morning sunlight caught on its blade, how it bent gracefully in the breeze, how it actually created an interesting contrast with the soft moss around it. "It's a weed," Takeshi said. "It doesn't belong in the design." "Who decides what belongs?" Enzo asked gently. "You designed this garden beautifully, but the garden is alive. Life has its own intelligence, its own direction. This grass sprouted here because conditions were right for it. The wind brought a seed, or it was in the soil, and now it grows. Is it part of the garden or not?" "It's not part of my design." "No," Enzo agreed. "It's part of the garden's design. And do you know what? In a few weeks, this grass will die back, or it will be eaten by insects, or someone will remove it. Nothing in this garden stays exactly as you left it. The cherry tree grows, the moss spreads, the gravel shifts when it rains, birds leave seeds. Seasons change everything. The garden you see today is not the garden that will be here next week, or next month, or next year." Takeshi felt a familiar tightness in his chest. "So all my work is pointless?" "No," Enzo said firmly. "Your work is beautiful and meaningful. But you're suffering because you believe that your work is to create a fixed, permanent thing that will stay exactly as you intended it. This is impossible. You haven't created a photograph or a painting, you've created a living system. And living systems change. They evolve. They respond to conditions. They have their own intelligence beyond your design." They walked slowly through the garden, Enzo pointing out small changes that had occurred in just the few weeks since completion. The moss growing slightly differently than Takeshi had planned. A pattern in the gravel that wind had altered. A bird's nest in the cherry tree that Takeshi hadn't intended. Small lichens appearing on some of the rocks. "Every one of these changes bothers you, doesn't it?" Enzo asked. "Yes," Takeshi admitted, "because they're not what I planned." "And yet," Enzo said, "the garden is still beautiful, perhaps even more beautiful than your original design, because it has this quality of life, of spontaneity, of being touched by forces beyond human control. Your design was the beginning, Takeshi. It was the foundation. But the garden's full beauty includes what comes after the participation of weather and time and chance and growth." They returned to the meditation hall, and Enzo prepared tea in silence. Finally, he spoke again. "Let me ask you something. Why do you create gardens?" Takeshi thought about this. "To create beauty, to make spaces where people can find peace and contemplation. And does this garden offer peace and contemplation?" "Yes. Even with the unexpected grass growing? Even with the wind-shifted gravel? Even with the bird's nest you didn't plan?" Takeshi looked out at the garden, really looked at it, and he had to admit it was still beautiful, still peaceful, maybe even more interesting with its small variations from his original vision. "Yes," he said quietly. "Then you've succeeded," Enzo said. "You've done your part. You brought your skill, your vision, your years of experience. You created the foundation for beauty, but now the garden is its own thing, in relationship with sun and rain and time and growth. You cannot control all of this. You can only do your part and release the outcome. But what if someone neglects it? What if it falls into ruin? Then it falls into ruin," Enzo said simply. "And that too is part of the nature of gardens. Everything beautiful that humans create eventually falls into ruin. Every garden returns to wilderness eventually. Every stone we place will someday be covered by soil and plants. This is not a tragedy. This is the nature of reality. Things arise, they exist for a time, they fade. Nothing stays exactly as we made it. Takeshi felt something shift in him, a loosening of the tight control he'd been holding. So I should stop caring about what happens to my gardens? No, Enzo said. Care deeply, create with all your skill and passion, but understand that your job is to do your part, not to control all the parts. Your job is to create, to plant, to arrange with wisdom and care. But the growing, the changing, the eventual fading, these are not your job. These belong to life itself. How do I know if I've succeeded then, if I can't control the outcome? You succeed when you do good work, Enzo said. When you bring your full skill and attention and care to the creating. The outcome, whether the garden is maintained or neglected, whether it thrives or struggles, whether people appreciate it or change it, this outcome is not the measure of your success. Your success is in the quality of your effort, not in the results you cannot control. Takeshi sat with this teaching, feeling both resistance and relief. Part of him wanted to argue, to insist that outcomes mattered, that he had to ensure his work lasted. But another part of him felt exhausted by the constant worry, the endless vigilance, the suffering over things beyond his reach. I've been carrying so much, he said quietly. Yes, Enzo agreed. You've been carrying your work and everyone else's work too. You've been trying to control not just your creating, but also the maintaining, the growing, the changing, the outcomes. You've been trying to control time itself. This is too much for any person to carry. Takeshi returned to the temple often in the following months, and gradually, with Enzo's guidance, he learned to practice a different relationship with his work. He still created with the same skill and care, still attended to every detail with devotion. But after completing a garden, he would practice releasing it. He developed a small ritual. After finishing a project, before leaving for the last time, he would stand in the garden he'd created and consciously release it. He would say, internally or sometimes aloud, I've done my part. I brought my skill and care to this creating. Now, I release this garden to life itself, to time and weather and change. May it bring beauty for as long as it exists, and when it changes or fades, may that too be part of its beauty. This practice was difficult at first. His old habits of worry and control were strong, but gradually, he found peace in this releasing. He could take satisfaction in the quality of his work without being consumed by anxiety about outcomes beyond his control. Yuki, his apprentice, noticed the change. You seem lighter, master, happier. I've learned something important, Takeshi told her. I've learned that I cannot control what happens after I finish my work. A garden might be carefully maintained for generations, becoming more beautiful with age, or it might be changed completely next year, or it might be destroyed by a storm next week. None of this is in my control. And this doesn't bother you anymore? It still bothers me sometimes, Takeshi admitted. Old habits of mine don't disappear completely. But now, when I notice myself worrying about a garden, I can recognize what's happening. I'm trying to control what I cannot control, and I can choose to release that worry. I can remind myself that I did my part well, and the rest is not mine to manage. What changed? Yuki asked. What made you able to let go? Takeshi thought about this carefully. I think it was Enzo asking me why I create gardens. When I remembered that my purpose is to create beauty and peace, I realized that I was accomplishing my purpose in the act of creating itself. The garden brings beauty and peace the moment it's completed. Whether it lasts 1 year or 100 years doesn't change the fact that I succeeded in creating something beautiful. He paused, looking at his hands, which had placed so many stones, planted so many trees. I also realized that my attachment to controlling outcomes was actually a kind of arrogance. I was acting as if my vision was the only valid way for a garden to be, as if any change from my design was a corruption. But gardens are alive. They participate in life's larger intelligence. When I let go of controlling exactly how they evolve, I open space for them to become something even more interesting than I could have planned. Some months later, Takeshi returned to the temple garden to find that a section of his carefully raked gravel had been disturbed by a wild animal, leaving tracks and scattered patterns. The old Takeshi would have immediately raked it back to his original design. But this Takeshi stood and looked at the animal tracks, at the scattered gravel that now looked like ripples around stones, and he found it beautiful. Not what he had planned, but beautiful nonetheless. Enzo came to stand beside him. "You're not fixing it?" "No," Takeshi said, and he was surprised by his own answer. "It's different from my design, but it has its own beauty. Life has participated in creating this pattern. Who am I to say my pattern was better?" "You've learned," Enzo said with satisfaction. "You've learned that control is not the same as mastery. True mastery is doing excellent work and then trusting life to unfold as it will." Years later, Takeshi would tell other gardeners, "Create with all your skill. Attend to every detail with care. Do your absolute best work, and then let it go. Release your creation to life itself. Your job is the creating, not the controlling. Your job is the planting, not the growing. Your job is to do your part with excellence, and then to trust that life will do its part." He would add, with a smile, "I used to suffer so much over my gardens. I would lie awake worrying about them, feeling hurt when they changed from my vision, feeling responsible for outcomes I couldn't control. Now I create with joy. I do my work well, and then I release it." Some gardens thrive for generations. Some change quickly. Some are destroyed by storms or neglect. And all of this is fine. All of this is part of the larger pattern of life arising and fading. My peace doesn't depend on outcomes anymore. It depends on the quality of my effort, which is the only thing I've ever been able to control. Take a deep breath now, letting it fill your lungs completely, and then release it slowly, letting all the air flow out. And as you breathe, notice that you don't have to control your breathing to breathe well. Your body knows what to do. Your breath finds its own rhythm without your management. Takeshi's story teaches us about one of the most difficult things to release: our attachment to outcomes. We do good work, we make excellent efforts, we plan carefully and execute skillfully, and then we think we should be able to control what happens next. We think the outcome should reflect the quality of our input. But life doesn't work this way. You can do everything right and still have things turn out differently than you planned. You can work hard and not get the promotion. You can be a loving parent and have your child make choices you wouldn't choose. You can create something beautiful and watch it be changed or destroyed. You can care for your health and still get sick. This is not unfair. This is simply reality. Outcomes depend on countless factors, most of which are beyond our control. We control our actions, our efforts, our intentions. We don't control results. The Buddhist teaching here is about distinguishing between process and outcome, between what we can control and what we cannot. We can control the quality of our effort. We cannot control whether that effort produces the results we want. And when we tie our peace, our happiness, our sense of success to outcomes we don't control, we set ourselves up for endless suffering. But when we find our satisfaction in doing good work, regardless of outcomes, when we measure success by the quality of our effort rather than by results beyond our reach, we discover a peace that external circumstances cannot shake. Takeshi could feel good about a garden he'd created with skill and care, whether that garden lasted 3 years or 30, whether the client maintained his vision or changed it completely. He had done his part well. The rest was not his to carry. This is available to you in your own life. You can do your work well. You can make your best effort. You can act with skill and care and wisdom. And then you can release the outcome. You can let results be what they'll be, knowing that you've done your part, and that's enough. You don't have to carry the weight of trying to control what happens next. Let yourself sink a little deeper now into whatever supports you. Let your body feel heavy, surrendered to gravity. You don't have to hold yourself up. The earth holds you. The surface beneath you holds you. You can let go. We've been exploring different aspects of control, trying to control circumstances, trying to control other people, trying to control our own emotions, trying to control outcomes. Let's look now at one more form of control, perhaps the subtlest, trying to control time itself. In a mountain village where seasons marked time more clearly than any clock, there lived a woman named Setsuko who was approaching her 60th year. She had lived a full life, married young, raised 4 children, worked alongside her husband in their small restaurant, been part of her community for decades. But as she aged, she felt increasingly anxious about time. She looked at her reflection and saw wrinkles that hadn't been there last year. Age spots on her hands, grey overtaking the black of her hair. She felt her body changing, joints stiffening in the morning, energy not quite as abundant as it once was, small aches that came and stayed. And she fought against all of this with everything she had. She dyed her hair meticulously, covering every trace of grey. She used creams and treatments for her skin. She pushed herself to maintain the same pace she'd kept in her 40s, refusing to slow down or admit that her stamina wasn't what it once was. She spoke often about not giving in to aging, as if aging were an enemy that could be defeated through sheer will. Her husband, Taro, a gentleman who had grown comfortably into his own aging, would watch his wife's struggles with concern. "Why are you fighting so hard?" he would ask. "We're getting older. This is natural." "I'm not ready to be old," Setsuko would reply sharply. "I'm not ready to slow down, to become irrelevant, to be invisible. I'm not ready for my life to be over." "But your life isn't over," Taro would say. "You're just entering a different season." But Setsuko couldn't hear this. To her, aging felt like loss of youth, loss of beauty, loss of energy, loss of relevance. And she believed that if she fought hard enough, if she maintained her appearance and refused to slow down, she could somehow stop time's passage. The truth was, her fight against aging was exhausting her. She spent enormous energy on maintaining an appearance of youth, time, money, and mental effort, all dedicated to looking younger than she was. She pushed herself past genuine fatigue, refusing to rest, because resting felt like giving in. She avoided activities she might actually enjoy because they seemed old. She wouldn't join the morning Tai Chi group because that's for elderly people, wouldn't attend the weaving circle because I'm not some old grandmother sitting around doing gear crafts. Her daughter, Hana, visiting from the city, noticed how tired her mother seemed, how tense. "Mama, you seem stressed. Are you taking care of yourself?" "Of course I am," Setsuko replied. "I'm taking very good care of myself. I exercise, I use good products, I stay active." "But are you happy?" Hana asked gently. The question stopped Setsuko. Was she happy? She had to admit that no, she wasn't. She was anxious most of the time, worried about aging, fighting against changes she could see and feel in her body. She was exhausted from maintaining her denial of time's passage. That winter, Setsuko fell while rushing to do her marketing. It wasn't a serious fall, but it resulted in a sprained ankle that required her to rest for several weeks. She couldn't dye her hair during this time, couldn't maintain her usual pace, couldn't keep up all the activities she'd been pushing herself to do. At first, this felt like a disaster. Forced to slow down, forced to let her grey roots show, forced to accept help, it was everything she'd been fighting against. But gradually, something unexpected happened. As she sat with her ankle elevated, watching winter through her window, she began to relax into the stillness. Her neighbor, an elderly woman named Fumiko who was well into her 80s, came to visit. Fumiko had a face that showed every year of her long life, but there was something beautiful about her, a serenity, a presence, a quality of being completely comfortable in her own skin. "I hear you've had a tumble," Fumiko said, settling herself beside Setsuko with the careful movements of very old bones. "Yes," Setsuko said. "It's frustrating. I have so much to do and I'm stuck here resting." Fumiko looked at her with eyes that held a lifetime of wisdom. "Or perhaps you needed to rest, and your body found a way to make you stop." Setsuko felt defensive. "I don't need to rest. I'm not old and fragile." "No?" Fumiko smiled. "Then what are you?" I'm 60. Well, almost 60. But I don't feel old. I don't want to be old." "Ah," Fumiko said with understanding. "You're fighting time. Is that so wrong? Should I just give up? Let myself go?" "There's a difference," Fumiko said gently, "between giving up and accepting. Between letting yourself go and letting yourself be. Tell me, Setsuko, how much energy are you spending trying to stop time?" Setsuko thought about the hours at the mirror, the treatments, the dye, the constant vigilance over every new wrinkle, the pushing past fatigue, the refusal to admit she might need to adjust her pace. A lot, she admitted quietly. And is it working? Is time stopping for you? No, Setsuko said, her voice small. I still see changes. I still feel myself aging. Yes, Fumiko agreed. Because time doesn't stop. Not for you, not for me, not for anyone. Time moves forward. Our bodies change. This is not a problem to be solved. This is reality to be lived with. Fumiko leaned back in her chair, her aged hands folded peacefully in her lap. When I was your age, I fought too. I fought the grey hair, the wrinkles, the slowing down. I wanted to stay young, or at least look young. And you know what all that fighting brought me? What? Suffering. Constant suffering. Every morning I would look in the mirror and see another sign of aging, and I would feel defeated. Every time I couldn't do something as easily as I once had, I felt like I was failing. I was at war with my own body, my own life, my own reality, and it was exhausting. So what changed? Setsuko asked. I met a very old woman. She was 93 and she was the most peaceful person I'd ever encountered. I asked her secret and she laughed. She said, I stopped fighting life. I let myself be exactly the age I am, and I discovered that every age has its own gifts, if you're willing to receive them instead of grieving what's gone. Fumiko shifted slightly, her old bones settling. So I tried it. I stopped dyeing my hair. I let the grey come. I stopped pushing myself to keep the pace of younger people. I let myself rest when I was tired. I stopped wearing clothes that were meant to make me look younger. I dressed for comfort and pleasure instead of appearance. And you know what happened? You gave up? Setsuko said, though without conviction. No, I became free. Free from the exhausting fight against time. Free to actually enjoy the age I am, instead of mourning the age I was. Free to discover what being 70, then 80, now nearly 90 actually offers, rather than just seeing it as a long list of losses. But what does aging offer? Isn't it just decline? That's what we're taught to believe, Fumiko said. That youth is valuable and age is worthless. But this isn't true. Yes, we lose some things. I can't move as I once did. My body has aches and limitations, but I've gained things too. Patience I never had when I was young. Perspective from decades of living. Freedom from caring what others think. Peace that comes from knowing who I am. Appreciation for small things, a warm cup of tea, sunlight on the wall, a kind word that I was too busy to notice when I was younger. She looked directly at Setsuko. You're about to turn 60. You can spend the next decades fighting this reality, trying to look younger, exhausting yourself, denying what is, or you can accept this new season of your life and discover what it has to offer. Both paths lead to the same destination. We all age, we all die. But one path is full of struggle and suffering, and the other allows for peace and even joy. Setsuko felt tears rising. I'm afraid. I'm afraid of becoming invisible, irrelevant. I'm afraid of my life being over. Your life is not over, Fumiko said firmly. It's changing. There is a difference. The cherry blossoms fall. Is spring over? No, spring continues, just in a different form. Summer comes. Then autumn, then winter. Each season is life, just in different expressions. You are entering autumn now. This is not death. This is a different kind of life. But I'll lose my beauty. You'll lose one kind of beauty and gain another, Fumiko said. The beauty of youth is undeniable, that freshness, that vitality. But there's a beauty in aged faces too, if we're willing to see it. The lines that show a life fully lived. The eyes that have seen decades of seasons. The body that has worked and loved and endured. This is beautiful too, just differently. They sat in silence for a while, and Setsuko looked at Fumiko's face, deeply lined, spotted with age, framed by completely white hair. And she tried to see it, as Fumiko suggested, tried to see the beauty. And slowly, she could. There was something in Fumiko's face that was indeed beautiful, a settledness, a peace, a quality of having come home to herself after a long journey. How do I do this? Setsuko asked finally. How do I stop fighting time? You start by accepting what is true right now, Fumiko said. You are almost 60. Your hair is naturally grey underneath the dye. Your body is changing. These are facts, not problems. You cannot control time's passage. You cannot stop your body from aging. But you can control how you meet this reality with resistance and suffering, or with acceptance and grace. Over the following months, as her ankle healed, Setsuko practiced what Fumiko had taught her. She stopped dyeing her hair, letting the grey grow out naturally. The first time she saw herself in the mirror with grey hair showing, she felt a pang of loss. But she practiced accepting what she saw. This is what I look like at 60. This is the truth. She stopped pushing herself to maintain the pace she'd kept at 40. When she was tired, she rested. When her body needed to move more slowly, she moved more slowly. She found that actually, when she stopped fighting her body's natural rhythms, she felt better. The constant exhaustion lifted. She had more genuine energy because she wasn't depleting herself through resistance. She joined the Tai Chi group she'd previously scorned as for elderly people, and she discovered that the slow, mindful movements actually brought her body a kind of ease and strength she hadn't known was possible. The women in the group, all in their 60s and 70s, became friends. They shared the experience of this stage of life without pretense, without denial, and Setsuko found relief in their company. Most surprisingly, she discovered that Fumiko was right. This season of life did have its gifts. She found she had more patience with her grandchildren than she'd had with her own children. She could sit with them for hours, fully present, in a way she hadn't been able to when she was younger and always rushing to the next task. She noticed beauty in small things, the particular quality of morning light, the taste of good tea, the sound of rain that she'd been too busy to appreciate before. She also found, to her surprise, that she didn't feel invisible. Yes, people didn't look at her the way they'd looked at her when she was young, but she realized she no longer needed that kind of attention. She felt more solid in herself, less dependent on external validation, more comfortable in her own being than she ever had when she was younger, and more conventionally beautiful. One evening, sitting with Taro as they often did, watching the sunset color the mountains, Setsuko said, "I wasted so much time fighting what was inevitable." "You're not fighting anymore?" Taro asked, surprised by the change in his wife. "I'm trying not to," Setsuko said. "I'm trying to accept this age, this stage. I'm 60 now. My birthday passed while I was recovering from the fall, and instead of dreading it as I had been, I found myself grateful. Grateful for 60 years of life. Grateful to have arrived at this age when not everyone does. Grateful for what this season brings." "You seem happier," Taro observed. "More at peace." "I am," Setsuko agreed. "I was so busy fighting time that I wasn't actually living. I was stuck in the past, trying to hold on to what was gone, trying to look like who I used to be. But now I'm here, in the present, being who I actually am, and it's such a relief." She looked at her hands, spotted and wrinkled, the hands of a 60-year-old woman. Before, she would have seen only loss in these hands. Now she saw her life, all the things these hands had done, all they had created and touched and held. "These hands," she said, "have made thousands of meals. They've held my children and my grandchildren. They've worked alongside yours for decades. They show my life. Why was I ashamed of them?" "I don't know," Taro said gently, "but I'm glad you're not ashamed anymore." Years later, when Setsuko was in her 70s, younger women would sometimes ask her about aging. "How do you do it?" they would ask. "How are you so comfortable with getting older? Aren't you afraid?" And Setsuko would tell them, "I was afraid for a long time. I fought aging with everything I had, but fighting time is like trying to hold back the tide. You exhaust yourself, and the tide comes in anyway. When I finally accepted that I couldn't control time's passage, when I stopped fighting my own aging, I discovered something unexpected. Each age has its own beauty, its own gifts, its own purpose. I couldn't see this when I was busy grieving youth. But when I accepted where I actually was in life, I could finally be present to what this stage offers." She would add, "We spend so much energy trying to control what we cannot control: time, aging, death. These are the great uncontrollables. They will happen regardless of how we feel about them, but we can control how we meet them, with fear and denial and exhausting struggle, or with acceptance and even curiosity about what this next chapter might bring. And sometimes she would share what Fumiko had told her years ago. Every season of life is life. Spring doesn't fail when it becomes summer. Summer doesn't fail when it becomes autumn. They're just different expressions of the same life force, moving through time as it must. And we are like this too. Childhood, youth, middle age, old age, all of these are life, just wearing different faces. None is better or worse. None is more valuable. All are part of the great movement of being alive. Breathe gently now, and feel your body exactly as it is in this moment. Whatever age you are, whatever condition your body is in, whatever stage of life you're moving through, this is your reality right now. Not what you used to be, not what you hope to be someday, but what you actually are in this present moment. The Buddha taught about impermanence anicca in the ancient language as one of the fundamental truths of existence. Everything changes, everything moves, nothing stays the same. Your body is changing moment by moment. Your thoughts are changing, your circumstances are changing. Time moves forward, always forward, never back. We can accept this reality and find peace, or we can fight it and suffer, but we cannot change it. Time will pass. We will age. Everything we know will eventually fade. This is not depressing, it's simply true. And when we stop fighting this truth, when we release our demand that reality be different than it is, we discover a profound peace. Setsuko's story shows us that letting go of control doesn't mean giving up or stopping to care. She still took care of herself, still lived fully, still contributed to her family and community. But she stopped trying to force time to stop, stopped trying to be something other than what she was. And in this acceptance, she found freedom. This teaching applies to all forms of trying to control time, not just aging. We try to rush time when we're impatient. We try to slow it down when we're enjoying something. We live in the future, planning and worrying. We live in the past, regretting and reminiscing. All of this is a fight against the reality that time moves at its own pace, that we exist only in this present moment, that we cannot control when things happen or how long they last. The practice is to be here now. Not yesterday, not tomorrow, but now. This breath, this moment, this reality, exactly as it is. When we stop trying to control time, we discover that the present moment is enough. It's actually all we ever have. And it's sufficient. It's complete. Let your eyes stay closed if they're closed, or let them softly focus on nothing in particular if they're open. Let your awareness rest in this present moment. Notice that you're not trying to be anywhere else, not trying to make time move faster or slower. Just here, just now, just this. We've explored many forms of control over circumstances, over others, over emotions, over outcomes, over time. Now, let's look at perhaps the most intimate form of control, trying to control your own mind, your own thoughts. In a monastery high in mountains that caught the first light of dawn, there lived a monk named Joshu who had been practicing meditation for 5 years. He was dedicated and sincere, spending hours each day sitting in meditation, trying to achieve the clear, peaceful mind that his teacher described. But Joshu struggled constantly with what seemed like an uncontrollable mind. During meditation, thoughts would arise endlessly. Planning thoughts, memory thoughts, worry thoughts, random thoughts about nothing in particular. Joshu would notice these thoughts and try to push them away, to make his mind be still. But the harder he tried to control his thinking, the more thoughts seemed to come. It was like trying to smooth water by slapping at it. His efforts only created more disturbance. His teacher, an old monk named Ryokan, who had been practicing for 50 years, would sometimes sit beside Joshu and observe his meditation. He could see the tension in Joshu's shoulders, the tightness in his face, the quality of effort and struggle in his posture. One morning after meditation, Ryokan asked Joshu, "How is your practice?" "Terrible," Joshu admitted, his voice full of frustration. "My mind won't be still. I sit down to meditate, and immediately thoughts start coming. I try to push them away, but more come. I try to focus on my breath, but my attention wanders. I try to be peaceful, but I feel agitated by all the mental noise. I don't understand how you can sit so peacefully when the mind is so chaotic. Ryokan smiled with understanding. Come with me, he said. He led Joshu to the monastery garden, to a small pond where they kept koi fish. Sit here and watch, Ryokan instructed. They sat together beside the pond, watching the fish swim lazily through the water. The surface of the pond was disturbed by the fish moving, by small breezes, by a leaf falling from a tree. It was never perfectly still. After a long silence, Ryokan asked, "What are you seeing?" "I see the fish swimming. I see the water moving. I see reflections on the surface that keep changing." "And is this a problem?" Joshu was confused. "What do you mean? Is it a problem that the pond is not perfectly still? Is it a problem that the fish are swimming? Is it a problem that the surface keeps moving?" "No," Joshu said slowly. "That's the nature of a pond with fish in it. It moves. That's what it does." "Yes," Ryokan agreed. "And your mind is like this pond. It's alive. It's natural for thoughts to arise, like fish swimming through water. It's natural for the surface of awareness to move and change. This is not a problem. This is not something you failed at. This is simply the nature of mind. But you told us to make our minds still, to achieve peaceful concentration. Did I?" Ryokan asked gently. "Or did I tell you to sit with what is, to observe your mind without fighting it? Tell me, Joshu, what are you actually doing when you meditate?" Joshu thought about this honestly. I'm trying to force my mind to be quiet. I'm fighting with my thoughts, pushing them away, getting frustrated when they keep coming. I'm trying to control my thinking. And is this working? No, it only makes everything worse. The more I fight, the more agitated I become." Ryokan nodded. "This is what I suspected. You've misunderstood the practice. Meditation is not about controlling the mind, not about forcing thoughts to stop. It's about observing the mind without trying to change it. It's about making peace with thinking, not war with it. But how can I meditate if thoughts keep coming?" "The thoughts are not the problem," Ryokan explained. "Let me show you something else." He picked up a small stone and tossed it into the pond. Ripples spread across the surface, disturbing the water. "Watch what happens." They watched as the ripples spread outward, peaked, and then gradually faded. The water didn't fight the ripples. It didn't try to be still while the stone's impact moved through it. It simply allowed the disturbance, and naturally, without effort, the surface settled again. "Thoughts are like these ripples," Ryokan said. "They arise because something has triggered them, a memory, a sense perception, a concern. They spread through consciousness. They peak, and then they naturally fade. But if you were to constantly slap at the water, trying to make it still faster, you would only create more ripples, more disturbance. The water becomes still not through force, but through allowing. So I should just let thoughts happen?" "Yes and no," Ryokan said. "Let me be precise. In meditation, thoughts will arise. This is certain. When you notice a thought, you don't engage with it, you don't follow it, develop it, argue with it. But you also don't fight it or push it away. You simply note that thinking is happening, and you return your attention to your breath or whatever your meditation object is, gently, without judgment, without fighting. But the thoughts just keep coming. Yes, they do, especially at first. The mind has been thinking constantly your entire life. It has momentum, like a wheel that's been spinning for years. You cannot stop it instantly through force. But if you stop feeding it, stop engaging with every thought, stop fighting the thoughts gradually, naturally, the momentum slows. The thinking becomes less compulsive, less overwhelming. But this happens through allowing, not through controlling. Joshu sat with this teaching, feeling both hope and confusion. "Can you explain more practically? What exactly should I do when I'm sitting and thoughts arise?" "Let's practice now," Ryokan said. "Sit comfortably, close your eyes, breathe naturally. Now, when a thought arises, notice it. You might silently name it thinking or planning or remembering just to acknowledge it. Then, gently, like you're redirecting a child with kindness, return your attention to your breath, not forcefully, not with frustration, just gently guiding your attention back. They sat together, and Joshu tried this new approach. A thought arose. He was thinking about the conversation with Ryokan. In the past, he would have been frustrated with himself for thinking about the very teaching on not thinking. He would have tried to force the thought away. But now, following Ryokan's instruction, he simply noted, thinking, and then gently brought his attention back to his breath. Another thought arose, this one about something he needed to do later. Again, instead of fighting it, planning, return to breath. A memory of breakfast, remembering, return to breath. What Joshu discovered was that this gentle approach felt completely different from his previous meditation. There was no war, no struggle. Yes, thoughts kept arising, many thoughts, a constant stream of them, but he wasn't fighting them anymore. He was just noticing them and returning to his breath, over and over, gently, without judgment. After perhaps 20 minutes, Ryokan rang a small bell, signaling the end of meditation. How was that? He asked. Different, Joshu said. Thoughts still came, so many thoughts. But I wasn't suffering with them. I wasn't exhausting myself fighting them. It felt gentler, more peaceful, even though the thinking didn't stop. This is the practice, Ryokan said. Not controlling your mind, but developing a different relationship with your mind. You're learning to observe thoughts without being controlled by them, without fighting them, without believing that their presence means you're failing. Over the following months, Joshu practiced this new approach consistently, and he noticed gradual changes. The thoughts did continue to arise during meditation, they probably always would, but they seemed less sticky somehow. A thought would arise. He would note it and return to his breath, and the thought would fade more quickly than before. His attention was beginning to stabilize, not through force but through patient, gentle practice. He also noticed something unexpected. His relationship with thoughts outside of meditation began to change too. When worries arose during his daily work, he could notice them as thoughts rather than being completely absorbed in them. When planning thoughts came, he could observe them without being carried away by them. He was developing a kind of space between awareness and thinking, a space that allowed him to respond to thoughts rather than just react automatically. One day, as he and Ryokan were working together in the garden, Joshu said, "I'm beginning to understand something. I thought the goal of meditation was to stop thinking, to achieve a blank, empty mind. But that's not it at all, is it? Tell me what you're understanding," Ryokan encouraged. "The goal is to develop awareness itself, awareness that can observe thinking without being controlled by thinking, awareness that remains steady even when thoughts are moving through it. Like the pond, the water can be aware of the fish swimming through it without becoming the fish. And the water doesn't become more water-like by fighting the fish. It's already water. It just needs to know itself as water, separate from the fish." Ryokan smiled broadly. "Yes, this is wisdom. You are not your thoughts. You are the awareness in which thoughts arise and pass. When you try to control thinking, you're caught in a paradox. You're using thought to fight thought, which only creates more thinking, more disturbance. But when you rest as awareness, simply observing without engaging or fighting, you discover that you've never been disturbed by thoughts at all. Only thought believes it's disturbed by thought. This is very subtle," Joshu said. "Yes, and it takes time to realize fully. But you're beginning to taste it. Keep practicing. Keep meeting your mind with gentleness rather than force, with allowing rather than controlling. The mind naturally settles when you stop fighting it, just as water naturally becomes clear when you stop stirring it." Years later, when Joshu had become a teacher himself, students would come to him frustrated with their meditation practice, complaining that they couldn't control their thinking. And Joshu would tell them what Ryokan had taught him. "The mind thinks," he would say. "This is its nature, like the heart beats and the lungs breathe. You don't achieve a peaceful mind by forcing thoughts to stop. You find peace by accepting that thinking happens, by developing awareness that can observe thoughts without being caught by them, without fighting them." He would often take students to the same pond and ask them to watch. See how the pond doesn't fight the fish. See how the surface doesn't fight the ripples. This is how you meet your mind, with allowing, with gentle observation, with acceptance of what is. And in this allowing, you discover a peace that's deeper than the absence of thoughts. You discover an awareness that's already peaceful, that's never been disturbed, that's simply been obscured by your fighting. Take a very gentle breath now, and as you release it, let your whole body soften. Notice if there's any tightness in your mind, any sense that you should be thinking less, feeling differently, being somewhere other than exactly where you are. See if you can release that too, just for now, just for this moment. Let yourself be exactly as you are. Joshu's story touches something that many of us struggle with, not just in meditation but in daily life. We believe we should be able to control our thinking, to stop worrying, to stop overthinking, to stop the mental chatter. And when we can't, we judge ourselves as weak or broken or failing. But the mind thinks, this is what it does. The brain generates thoughts constantly, just as the stomach digests food and the heart pumps blood. Trying to force thoughts to stop is like trying to force your heart to stop beating. It's fighting against the natural function of the organ. The Buddhist teaching is not that you should control your thoughts, but that you can change your relationship with your thoughts. You can learn to observe thinking without being consumed by it. You can develop awareness that's separate from the content of thought. Awareness that remains peaceful even when thoughts are turbulent. This is liberation not from thinking itself, but from the belief that you are your thoughts, that you must control them, that their presence means something is wrong. When you stop fighting your mind, when you allow thoughts to arise and pass like clouds crossing the sky, you discover a fundamental peace that was always there, just obscured by your struggle. And here's something important. This same teaching applies to your experience right now, in this moment, as you rest here. Perhaps thoughts are arising as you listen to or read these words. Perhaps you're thinking about something you need to do tomorrow, or remembering something from earlier today. Perhaps you're judging yourself for not being more focused, for not being more relaxed. All of this is fine. All of this is the mind doing what minds do. You don't need to fight these thoughts. You can simply let them be there, like fish swimming through the pond of your awareness, while you continue to rest, continue to breathe, continue to allow yourself this time of ease. The teaching about letting go of control, whether it's control over circumstances, over others, over emotions, over outcomes, over time, or over your own mind, all points to the same fundamental truth. Reality unfolds as it unfolds. We can participate in it with wisdom and skill, but we cannot force it to be different than it is. And when we stop trying to force reality, when we release our grip on the uncontrollable, we discover a peace that doesn't depend on circumstances being a certain way. This peace is always available. It doesn't require perfect conditions. It doesn't require that everything be sorted out, that all problems be solved, that your mind be still. It simply requires that you stop fighting what is, that you allow reality to be as it is right now, including your own experience exactly as it is. Let yourself rest more deeply now. Your breath is breathing itself. Your body is held by whatever surface supports you. Thoughts may be arising, and this is fine. Sensations may be present in your body, and this too is fine. Everything is allowed to be exactly as it is. Nothing needs to change. Nothing needs to be controlled. Let me share one final story, bringing together all these teachings about control and the freedom that comes from releasing it. There was a woman named Keiko who lived in a city by a great river. She was successful by most measures. She had built a good business, raised her family well, maintained her home beautifully. But Keiko carried a constant anxiety, a feeling that if she relaxed her vigilance for even a moment, everything would fall apart. She tried to control everything. At work, she micromanaged every detail, unable to delegate because she believed only she could do things correctly. At home, she orchestrated every aspect of family life, from meal plans to schedules to how the house should be maintained. She tried to manage her husband's moods, her children's choices, her friends' problems. She pushed away difficult emotions, trying to always appear calm and capable. She worried constantly about outcomes, whether her business would succeed, whether her children would be safe, whether people approved of her. She fought against aging, against uncertainty, against anything she couldn't predict or plan for. And despite all this effort, despite her constant vigilance and control, things went wrong anyway. Her business faced unexpected challenges. Her children made choices she wouldn't have chosen. Her carefully organized plans were disrupted by circumstances beyond her control. Her body aged regardless of her efforts to stop it. And the harder she tried to control everything, the more exhausted and anxious she became. One evening, unable to sleep as usual, Keiko walked down to the river that flowed through her city. She stood on a bridge, watching the water move beneath her, illuminated by the city lights. The river was wide and strong, moving steadily toward the sea, as it had been moving for thousands of years before Keiko was born, and as it would continue to move long after she was gone. As she watched the river, something shifted in Keiko's perception. She saw clearly for the first time how small she was, how limited her control actually was. She couldn't control this river, its flowing, its destination, its power. She couldn't control the weather, the turning of seasons, the rising and setting of the sun. She couldn't control other people's thoughts or feelings or choices. She couldn't control outcomes, no matter how perfectly she planned. She couldn't control time's passage, her own aging, her eventual death. Everything she had been exhausting herself trying to control was actually beyond her control. Everything she had been carrying was too heavy for any human being to carry. And in that moment of clear seeing, something released in Keiko. It was as if she had been holding her breath for years and suddenly remembered she could exhale. She felt tears streaming down her face, not tears of sadness exactly, but tears of release, of exhaustion finally acknowledged, of a burden finally set down. She stood there by the river for a long time, just breathing, just being, letting herself feel the full weight of what she had been carrying, and then, slowly, letting herself release it. She couldn't carry the weight of controlling everything. It was too much. It had always been too much. In the days and weeks that followed, Keiko began to live differently. She didn't change all at once. Old habits were strong, and the impulse to control arose often. But when she noticed herself trying to manage what wasn't hers to manage, she would remember the river. She would remember how it flowed without her help, how it managed itself perfectly without any human control. And she would ask herself, is this mine to control? At work, she began to delegate, to trust her employees to handle tasks in their own way, even if it wasn't exactly how she would do it. She discovered that people were capable when given the chance, and that many hands working together accomplished more than her solitary, controlled effort ever had. At home, she practiced releasing her family to their own lives. When her adult children made choices she wouldn't choose, instead of trying to control or correct them, she would take a breath and remind herself, their lives, their choices, their lessons to learn. She could offer support when asked, but she couldn't live their lives for them. With her emotions, she practiced what she had learned from reading about Buddhism, allowing feelings to arise and pass without fighting them. When anxiety came, instead of pushing it away or trying to think it away, she would let it be there. Anxiety is present, she would notice, and then return to her breath, return to the present moment, and the anxiety would peak and then fade, like a wave, just as the teachings described. With outcomes, she practiced releasing attachment to specific results. She could do good work, make wise choices, plan carefully, and then she could release the outcome, trusting that results would unfold as they would, influenced by countless factors beyond her control. Her job was effort, not results. With time and aging, she practiced acceptance. She let her gray hair show. She moved at the pace her body wanted to move. She stopped fighting the reality of being the age she was, and she discovered, like Setsuko in the earlier story, that acceptance brought peace in a way control never had. The transformation was gradual but profound. Keiko's anxiety, which had been her constant companion for decades, began to lessen, not all at once, but in waves. As she practiced releasing control over and over again, she slept better. She laughed more easily. Her relationships improved as people no longer felt managed or controlled by her. Her work actually became more successful when she stopped trying to control every detail and allowed space for others' creativity and initiative. One day, perhaps a year after that night by the river, Keiko's daughter said to her, "Mum, you're different, happier." What changed? Keiko thought about how to answer. Finally, she said, "I stopped trying to hold up the sky. I realized the sky holds itself up, and it always has. My job was never to control everything. My job is just to live my own life well, to do what I can do, and to release everything else." That sounds simple. It is simple, Keiko agreed, but it wasn't easy to learn. I spent so many years believing that if I just controlled enough, managed enough, planned enough, I could keep everything safe and good. But control is an illusion. I never actually controlled most of what I thought I was controlling. I was just exhausting myself, trying. She paused, looking at her daughter with love. The things I can actually control are very limited. I can control my own actions, my own responses, my own choices about how to spend my time and energy. That's about it. Everything else, other people, circumstances, outcomes, the future, these were never mine to control. And once I accepted this, once I stopped fighting reality, I found a peace I didn't know was possible. Years later, when Keiko was quite old, she would often sit by that same river where her transformation had begun, and she would watch the water flow, always flowing, never trying to be anything other than what it was, moving around obstacles rather than fighting them, finding its way to the sea through the path of least resistance. The river became her teacher. It showed her how to live, not by controlling and forcing and managing everything, but by flowing with what is, by moving skillfully around obstacles, by allowing reality to unfold while participating in it with wisdom and care. She would sometimes say to people who came to her with their anxieties and struggles, "You're trying to control the river, but you cannot control the river. You can only learn to swim in it, to move with its current, rather than fight against it. And when you stop fighting the river, you discover it was carrying you all along. You were never in as much danger as you thought. The river knows where it's going." Take a deep breath now, as deep as feels comfortable, and as you release it, let everything soften just a little bit more. Your jaw, your shoulders, your belly, your hands, let them all be heavy, relaxed, surrendered to gravity. All of these stories we've explored: Sachiko and the storm-damaged tapestry, Kenzo the worried farmer, Ayame learning to release control over others, Daichi in his grief, Takeshi the gardener, Setsuko accepting aging, Joshu discovering he couldn't control his thoughts, and Keiko by the river. All of them learned the same fundamental teaching. We cannot control what is beyond our control, and our suffering comes not from what happens, but from our fight against what happens. This is the heart of the Buddhist teaching about letting go. Not that we should stop caring or stop trying, not that we should become passive or indifferent, but that we should distinguish between what is ours to do and what is not ours to control. We can act with wisdom and skill, we can make good choices, we can care deeply, but we must release attachment to specific outcomes. We must stop trying to force reality to be different than it is. When we try to control what cannot be controlled, we create a kind of friction between ourselves and reality. This friction generates suffering, anxiety, frustration, exhaustion, fear. But when we align ourselves with reality as it is, when we work with what is rather than fight against it, this friction dissolves. We discover a fundamental ease, a peace that doesn't depend on everything going our way. This peace is available to you now, in this moment. You don't have to wait until you've solved all your problems or figured everything out. You don't have to have your life perfectly arranged. You simply have to stop fighting what is, even just for this moment, even just for the duration of this rest. Let yourself notice what you've been holding on to. Perhaps there's some situation you're trying to control, some outcome you're gripping tightly, some person you're trying to change, some feeling you're trying to eliminate. Just notice this without judgment, and then, experimentally, see if you can release your grip just slightly. Not giving up, not stopping to care, just loosening the desperate hold. What happens when you release your grip? Even a little. Perhaps you notice that the situation doesn't immediately fall apart. Perhaps you notice that you can still care about something without having to control it. Perhaps you notice a slight easing in your chest, a softening of tension you've been carrying. This is the practice. Not a one-time release, but a gradual, patient process of noticing when we're trying to control what we cannot control, and gently, with compassion for ourselves, releasing that effort over and over, day by day, moment by moment. And here's something beautiful. The more you practice this release, the more natural it becomes. At first, it feels strange, even frightening, to stop trying to control everything. But gradually, you discover that life continues without your constant management. The sun rises, the seasons turn, people make their own choices and learn their own lessons. Your body breathes and your heart beats without your conscious control. So much is already taking care of itself. Your job is not to manage all of this. Your job is much simpler and more manageable than that. Your job is to live your own life with as much wisdom and kindness as you can, to make choices that align with your values, to act with care and skill, to be present with what's actually happening rather than lost in worry about what might happen, to treat yourself and others with compassion. These things are within your reach. These things are yours to do. Everything else, outcomes, other people's choices, circumstances beyond your influence, the future, the past, these are not yours to carry. You can release them. You can let them be what they will be. And in this release, you'll find you have so much more energy for what's actually yours to do. Let your body sink a little deeper now into rest. Notice the surface beneath you, whether it's a bed, a couch, a chair, the floor, and let yourself be held by it. You don't have to hold yourself up. You can surrender to gravity. Let yourself be supported. This is a small practice of releasing control, letting the ground hold you instead of holding yourself. There's a teaching in Zen Buddhism about clouds and sky. The clouds are always moving, always changing, sometimes dark and heavy, sometimes light and wispy, sometimes covering the whole sky, sometimes barely present. But the sky itself never changes. The sky is always spacious, always clear, always present, behind or around or beyond the clouds. Your thoughts and emotions and circumstances are like clouds. They change constantly. Sometimes your inner weather is stormy, difficult emotions, anxious thoughts, painful experiences. Sometimes it's calm and clear, sometimes somewhere in between. But you, your fundamental awareness, your basic being, you are like the sky. You are the space in which all of this happens, and you are never truly disturbed by the clouds, no matter how dark they are. When you try to control the clouds, to push away difficult emotions, to stop anxious thoughts, to force circumstances to be different, you're fighting a losing battle. Clouds move as they move, but when you remember that you are the sky, when you rest as spacious awareness rather than identifying with the changing weather of your experience, you discover that you've never actually been threatened by the clouds at all. This might sound abstract, but you can feel it directly. Right now, as you rest here, thoughts are probably arising. Perhaps pleasant thoughts, perhaps uncomfortable ones. Emotions may be present: peace, anxiety, sadness, contentment, or some mixture. Physical sensations are certainly present, the feeling of your body against the surface beneath you, perhaps some aches or tensions, the movement of breath. All of this is like clouds moving through the sky of your awareness. And you, the awareness that notices all of this, you are untouched by it. You can observe thoughts without being thoughts. You can feel emotions without being emotions. You can experience sensations without being reduced to sensations. This is who you really are. Not the changing content of experience, but the unchanging awareness that knows experience. And this awareness doesn't need to control anything. It's already complete. It's already at peace. It simply witnesses the flow of life through it, like the sky witnesses the flow of clouds, without resistance, without grasping, without fear. When you rest as this awareness, when you stop trying to control the clouds and simply allow them to pass through the spaciousness of your being, you discover the peace that was always here. Not a peace you have to create or achieve. Not a peace that depends on perfect conditions, but a peace that is your fundamental nature, always present, just often obscured by your efforts to control what cannot be controlled. Let yourself rest in this awareness now. You don't have to do anything, become anything, achieve anything. You simply are. Present, aware, spacious. Let thoughts come and go like clouds. Let feelings arise and pass. Let sensations be as they are. None of it needs to be controlled. All of it can simply be witnessed, allowed, released. This is what the Buddha meant by letting go. Not getting rid of anything, but releasing the grip, the grasping, the desperate need to control. Everything is allowed to be as it is, and in this allowing, you discover that you are already free. You were always free. You just didn't notice because you were so busy trying to control everything. Take another gentle breath, and as you release it, practice letting go. Not letting go of anything specific necessarily, just the quality of releasing, of opening, of allowing. Feel how it's possible to care about your life, to engage with it fully, while simultaneously releasing the desperate grip of control. These are not opposites. They can coexist. Care without control, engagement without grasping, presence without resistance. You might notice that as you've been resting here, listening to or reading these teachings, time has been passing, and you haven't been controlling it. Time has been moving at its own pace, bringing you from the beginning of this journey toward its end, and you haven't had to manage this at all. It's been happening naturally, effortlessly. This is how so much of life works when we stop trying to force it. Your breath has been breathing. Your heart has been beating. Your body has been digesting, circulating blood, maintaining temperature, healing small wounds, fighting off bacteria, all without your conscious control. Life is taking care of so much without your management. Can you trust this? Can you let this be okay? The teachings we've explored tonight all point to this same truth. The less you try to control, the more space there is for life to unfold naturally. The less you grip, the more you can hold. The less you force, the more you flow. This is the paradox. At the heart of Buddhist wisdom, we find power not through control but through surrender, not through forcing but through allowing, not through resistance but through acceptance. This doesn't mean you become weak or passive. Sachiko still created beautiful tapestries, but she stopped trying to control every variable. Kenzo still farmed his land skillfully, but he stopped worrying about weather beyond his control. Ayame still cared about people, but she stopped trying to manage their lives. Daichi still grieved his son, but he stopped fighting the grief. Takeshi still created gardens with care, but he released attachment to outcomes. Setsuko still lived fully, but she stopped fighting time. Joshu still meditated daily, but he stopped fighting his thoughts. Keiko still worked and loved and engaged with life, but she stopped trying to control everything. They all discovered that releasing control doesn't diminish you. It liberates you. It frees your energy for what's actually yours to do. It allows you to meet life as it comes, rather than exhausting yourself trying to force it to be different than it is. And this is available to you, starting right now. You don't have to figure out how to do this perfectly. You don't have to suddenly release control over everything in your life. You can start small. You can start with this moment. Right now, in this moment, can you let yourself be exactly as you are? Can you let your experience be exactly as it is? Can you stop trying to be somewhere else, feel something different, achieve some other state? Just for now, just for this moment, can you let everything be exactly as it is and discover that this is enough? That you are enough, exactly as you are. That this moment is complete, even if it's not what you expected or wanted or planned. This is the practice. This is the path. Not achieving some perfect state of control, but discovering the peace that comes from releasing the need for control. Over and over, moment by moment, gently returning to this fundamental allowing, this basic acceptance of what is. Let your breath be soft and natural now. Let your body be heavy and relaxed. Let your mind be whatever it is, busy with thoughts or quiet, peaceful or restless. All of it is allowed. All of it is fine. There's no wrong way to be in this moment. If you notice yourself judging your experience, trying to make it be different, this too can be noticed and released. Even the impulse to control can be allowed without resistance. You're not trying to control, you're controlling. You're simply noticing it, acknowledging it, and gently releasing your grip again and again, as many times as needed, with patience, with kindness toward yourself. You've been carrying so much. So many worries about what might happen. So many attempts to manage what cannot be managed. So many efforts to force life to be different than it is. And all of this has been exhausting. You've been tired for so long. You've been holding so tight for so long, but you can rest now. You can let yourself release all of this, even just for this time of rest. The world will continue without your constant vigilance. Your life will still be there when you wake. But right now, in this moment, you can let everything go. You can stop trying. You can simply be. Nothing needs to be figured out right now. Nothing needs to be solved or managed or controlled. You can let all of that go. Let it drift away like clouds dispersing, like tension melting, like a tight grip finally opening. Feel how much lighter this is. Feel how much space opens up when you stop trying to hold everything together through force of will. You don't have to hold everything together. Life holds itself together. The universe manages itself quite well without your help. You are held by life itself, by existence itself, by a process so much larger than your individual effort. Can you trust this? Can you let yourself be held? Can you release the exhausting responsibility of trying to control everything and everyone, including yourself? Let your eyes be soft and closed, or if they're already closed, let them rest even more deeply. Let the muscles around your eyes release completely. Let your forehead smooth. Let your jaw hang loose, teeth slightly apart. Let your tongue rest soft in your mouth. Let your shoulders drop away from your ears, heavy and relaxed. Let your arms be heavy at your sides, hands soft and open, not gripping anything. Let your chest soften with each exhale, your belly rise and fall naturally with your breath, no control needed. Let your hips and legs be heavy, supported fully by whatever surface is beneath you. Let your feet be soft, toes uncurled, nothing held tight anywhere in your body. Scan through your body now and notice if there's anywhere you're still holding tension, still trying to control or manage or hold on. And wherever you notice this, see if you can breathe into that place and release. Not forcing the release, just inviting it, just allowing the possibility of letting go. Your body knows how to rest. Your body wants to rest. You don't have to control your resting. You can simply allow it. Your body will take care of itself, will find the restoration it needs. If you simply stop interfering, stop trying to manage even this process of resting. Sleep, when it comes, is also not something you control. You cannot force yourself to sleep, but you can create conditions for sleep. A quiet space, a comfortable position, a peaceful mind, and then you can release even sleep itself to happen in its own time. If sleep comes now, let it come. If it doesn't yet, that's fine too. You're resting either way. You're releasing either way. You're letting go. The teachings continue even as you drift. The wisdom we've explored together is not just intellectual understanding but embodied knowing. And this knowing deepens as you release into rest, into sleep, into the peace that's always been here waiting for you to stop fighting long enough to notice it. You are safe. In this moment, right now, you are safe. Whatever difficulties await you tomorrow, whatever challenges you face in your life, in this moment, you are safe. You are held. You are enough. And you can rest. Let everything go now. Let every concern drift away like mist in morning sun. Let every worry dissolve like sugar in water. Let every tension release like a wave returning to the ocean. Everything can go. Everything can be released. You don't have to hold on to anything right now. The river flows, whether you manage it or not. The sky remains spacious, whether you notice it or not. Life continues, breath by breath, moment by moment, held by forces so much larger than your individual control. And you can trust this. You can surrender to this. You can let yourself be carried by the current that was always carrying you anyway. Rest now, rest deeply, rest completely. There's nothing you need to do, nowhere you need to be, nothing you need to become. You can simply be here, now, exactly as you are, and this is perfect. This is enough. You are enough. May you rest in peace. May you release all that you cannot control. May you find freedom in letting go. May you sleep deeply, restored by the fundamental peace that is your true nature. May you wake refreshed, knowing that you don't have to carry the weight of the world, that your job is simply to live your life with wisdom and care, releasing everything else to the great unfolding of life itself. Rest now. Let go now. Be at peace now. Everything is exactly as it should be. You are exactly where you need to be, and you can rest. Finally, completely, you can rest.